Right.
Okay, I was born about 12 miles southeast of Honey Grove, Texas. In them days where you didn't go to the hospital, the doctor came to the house. But I was born in this house out there, and that was August 8th, 1921.
And what is your full name?
J W Hoover. And you can't join the Army with an initial name. You have to give them a full name. That's what the guy told me. And I says, that's my name. He says, go out and walk around the building. Come back in and give me your name. I says, if I go out and walk around the building, I won't be back. So he put down J, initial only, W, initial only, Hoover, and that's why I signed up in the Army.
Well, there's nothing behind the J or the W?
Not that I ever used and won't ever use.
Well,
I don't know why I didn't like it, and I've always used JW, and that's it.
so, were you named
after two grandpas.
Two grand. What was your father's name?
JC, which was John Charlie.
So John Charles Hoover?
Charlie.
And what did he do for a living?
He was a farmer.
In near Honey Grove?
Yeah, 12 miles out there where I was born.
If I looked at downtown Honey Grove, looking north toward Oklahoma, how would I find that farm?
Well, you go south out of Honey Grove and then kind of back to the east. It was 12 miles out there, and I would say it's maybe 9 miles south and 3 miles east.
Is it on a farm to market road or anything?
No, back in those days there were just roads out there. There was one main road was called the Mail Route Road, and then the other roads ran from that. And we were at the end of the road where I lived.
Is the house still there?
No, nothing's there. In fact, it's all fenced in. You can't even get there now without just crossing the field. There's not a road to it. It was fenced off and all put in pasture.
How big was your father's farm?
We had 70 acres, which actually belonged to my grandpa.
What was his name?
John Franklin. And then Dad bought 70 acres. He bought a 30-acre spot and a 40-acre spot. So that the two together was 140 acres. And then we had a 300-acre pasture that we leased down there to run cattle on. We run a kind of a dairy. We usually milked anywhere from 10 to 15 cows. And sold our milk to a cheese plant in Bonham. A fellow by the name of Roland had a route down there picking up milk from all the farmers around there and hauled it to Bonham to the cheese plant.
What was the name of the cheese plant? Do you remember?
No, I don't remember the cheese plant. It may have been the one that was here, Kraft. It may have been Kraft, but I'm not sure.
Now, did you have your mother's name? What was your mother's full name?
Leslie May.
What was her maiden name?
Holder. Holder.
Were your parents both from this area, from the Honey Grove area?
No, Holder lived out here at Ambrose, just east of town here, about 10 miles. And Dad and his dad, I don't know just where my dad was born, but his dad came out of Kentucky. He was a horse trader back in them days. His dad was. That's where he made his living. Just like a car dealer today. See, a horse trader then was the same as a car dealer today. And so he got to buying and selling horses. And some way he kept coming back in this part of the country, is the way I understand. And somewhere along the line, he married an Indian woman. She was full-blood Indian. And mean as the Dickens.
You knew her well?
I knew her well because she let you know who she was and where she stood. And boy, she hollered, you better listen to kids, but Grandpa could handle her. My grandpa was, he was a good 6-footer, better and weighed probably 2 1/4, and he wasn't fat, he was just a big man. And he'd let her holler so long, then he'd tell her to get in the house and shut up. That was the end of her.
Where did they live?
At Honey Grove.
Is their house still there?
No, that house, I can't find it anymore. It's been tore down. I think another house built there.
Well, is your grandfather and grandmother, they buried in Honey Grove?
Yeah. Yeah, right. You said, well, go north of town. It's right north of the square there where the cemetery is. That's where my grandma and grandpa and my dad's buried there.
What about your mother?
She's buried here. She lived several years after Dad passed away and lived up here, so
She's buried in Denison?
she's buried in Denison.
Did they live to a pretty good age?
Dad was 80 some odd and Mom was 90 something.
So you've got pretty good genes.
Yeah.
The
Both grandma and grandpa's lived to good age.
now on your farm, what type of crops? Not counting the pasture for the cattle, but on the farm itself, what type of things did you grow?
Well, mainly cotton, but we did raise quite a bit of corn because we fed a lot of corn to our mules. We used mules, and so we had to have corn for them, corn for the hogs, and corn for the chickens. And we never did know how many chickens we had around there. They just run from the cow lot to the horse lots and all around the place there.
So they could be considered free-range chickens.
They were free-range chickens. They just hatch out. Mama had a place to hatch chickens out, but a lot of them would hatch out under the corn cribs and first one place another.
Now, did you have any brothers and sisters?
I had 2 brothers and 6 sisters.
Now, your brothers, were they World War II veterans?
One of them, the one just younger than me, he went to Europe,
What was his name?
RB.
And what did he do in Europe?
Well, he fought over there. I forget where all he went. I know he was in France and some other places over there.
So he was in infantry division?
Yeah, and he got wounded twice. He had 2 Purple Hearts. But he died at 79.
Did he ever tell you which division he was in?
I think he did, but I don't remember. We never did talk about it much. And,
Now, 6 sisters, you've got 3 boys and 6 sisters.
yeah,
A little top-heavy with gals around the house, isn't it?
that's right. And there was 4 girls older than me, and I'm the oldest boy. And they used to beat the dickens out of us. And I guess we had every one of them coming until we got married up.
So what type of, and for those gals to get after you, after the brothers, I mean, what type of stunts did you pull around the house?
Just about everything you can think of to aggravate them.
Did you have any special tricks that you used to do? Pigtails on the inkwell or things like that?
Oh yeah, we did that at school on all the girls back then. And but no, we got along good. I mean, the kid fights didn't amount to anything the way we did. We never really get mad at anybody. But
Well, did you have a take charge sister?
yeah, she's still alive. Lives right over here now. She's 94, I believe it is.
What was her name?
AD. And she was number 2. Pauline was the oldest, Nadine was the next. And she's the one that always tried to run the family, and still does. What's left of us.
So from a standpoint as a kid growing up, what type of chores did you do on the farm?
Brother, we worked all the time. I mean, from the time you were 7 years old on the farm, there was work to be done. We always had to feed the hogs, feed the mules, and milk the cows, and clean out this barn, clean out that barn. I mean, just something for you to do all the time.
Who did the egg collecting?
Just first one another. Just if you happen to be down at the barn late in the evening, some you go gather eggs up. Then some would go to the hen house and gather, and then around the cow lot, the hens would make nests. About 3 or 4 different places that lay eggs around there.
What about the cotton picking? Who did that?
Well, usually we hired a lot of that done because usually come in to pick cotton or you had to get that out at a certain time.
Did you do any?
Very little, but I could pick cotton. And one year after I got about 12, 13 years old, Dad said I was wasting, he was wasting his money to buy me a cotton sack. So I took over pulling the cotton to the gin and stuff like that and weighing and emptying sacks and all.
Now, picking cotton's not an easy thing to do. You can get bloody fingers pretty quickly, can't you?
Yeah, you can a little bit, but not real bad on your fingers. But the mind of this is bending over.
Well, who plowed the fields?
Well, before I was old enough, Dad hired two guys. He and two other guys did the plowing and the planting and all that kind of stuff. And after I got up about, I was trying to think, I was probably 14 years old. And they'd come out with some tractors at that time. And I was already running some plows, even though the handles wasn't even on my head. I know when it hit a place, I'd go in it inside it. And we were sitting at the breakfast table there one morning. We'd looked at tractors. We were sitting at the breakfast table one morning eating breakfast, and Dad sat right here, and I was like this. And he said, well, Jay said, we got to go hook them up. We got to start putting the land up. And I looked at him and I said, Dad, I said, I put the horse on my last mule. That's usually when you get knocked away from the table. He didn't say a word. He just went in and finished eating his breakfast. He got up and says, son, when you get through eating breakfast, get your Sunday go to meeting clothes on. Well, the only difference in the work clothes and Sunday go to meeting clothes was work clothes was a solid blue jean or blue overalls. And Sunday clothes is striped overalls, blue and white stripes. So I goes in, put my blue and whites, striped overalls, and we go up to Honey Grove. And we'd almost decided, we'd been up there before on the Case tractor. Well, we got up there and there's a wreath on the door. It had somebody that died and he was having a funeral. So we drove on down the street there to John Deere, the John Deere place. And by noon that day, I was driving the John Deere tractor in the fields. And from then on, I did the work with that tractor 3 men had been doing with teams.
You used to, what was the method? How did you you used mules to plow the fields?
Yeah.
How did that work? Did you ride up on something or you walk behind them?
Most of us walked behind. Very few items that you could ride in.
How hard of work is that?
Well, it's not hard work, but you just walk all day long holding that plow and place to go.
Is there a certain way you plow a field?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The type of whatever you plow. I mean, you know what a cultivator is?
Well, you're talking to a city boy.
Well, it's a cultivator. Here's your crop road standing here. There's a plow here and a plow here, and then there's one behind that one on each side. It takes 2 on each side to plow. And you go down and up every row. You hold that to a certain distance from the plant to keep you from cutting the plants. That's all there is to it, but you have to walk all day.
Well, who does all the planting then?
Well, you do that planting, and the planter is, now that's one you ride. You get to ride on the planter. And you bedded your land up, made a bed there. And you go down and it plows out a little strip, and then it's got 2 little deals back here that plows behind covering the seed up. And that's why that planting was real easy because, like I said, you just rode there and drove the team on that 1 row at a time. But the tractor we got wasn't very big, but it was 2 rows at a time. But I could still run the tractor 2 rows at a time faster than 3 men could plow 1 row at a time each, see? And didn't have to stop and rest. I'd crank that old tractor up and go out there by sun up and let her run till sundown. That was a day's work then.
Now, your house, did it have electricity?
No. No electricity, no telephone. The first radio that we bought, we run it off of a car battery. And we used lamps.
What type of lamps did you use for lighting in the house?
Well, we've got one sitting in here, just a regular lamp, the coal oil.
Did it give enough light in the house?
Oh yeah, it made pretty good light.
Can those things be dangerous, though?
Yeah. Yeah, if you knock them over or something like that, well, they could explode, I guess, on you. But usually it just spill out and make more of just a fire than an explosion. But it's possible that they could, but we never did have one do it.
What do you use for restrooms?
Had a path down yonder, and a hole in the ground, and a two-holer up here on the top.
Now, fellas can do this, guys can do this, but gals don't really like that type of restroom.
No, they didn't like it, but that's the way that's what you had.
What about heat? What do you have for heat in the house?
Well, nearly every home was built in had a fireplace, but like in the kitchen, you had a wood cook stove, and then they come out with these little what they call the pot-bellied heaters, most of them. And you just built a fire in that with a stovepipe going out through the roof.
Was it warm enough during the wintertime?
Well, it was warm as long as you sat there and keep the fire and stand by it. But when you walked away, and sometimes you'd be hot on one side and cold on the other. You know what I mean?
So the family would tend to congregate toward the heat source during the wintertime.
Oh yeah. Yeah, usually it'd warm up a room. Fireplace would pretty well warm that room, or heater in a room would warm that room. But it's all one room heat stuff.
What about baths?
Number 3 wash tub. You don't know what a number 3 wash tub is.
It's a big one. It's like a cattle trough.
And you heat your water on the stove and pour your hot water in there, and you mix your cold water to get as much water as you want. Now us boys used to swim more over in the pool. Cattle tank. We'd take our baths over there. Had lots of water there.
Was there a creek running nearby?
Oh yeah, we had a creek run by, but those creeks didn't hold water a lot. Just when it's raining, then they'd run out. But we had some water tanks, we call them, that had water all the time, year round, for the stock to drink out of, stuff like that. And
Well, they also used the restroom in those tanks.
no, you didn't use the restroom in
But
there.
the animals did.
Well, yeah, sometimes they probably would, yeah.
I won't get into this one.
But anyway, your fish usually keep that cleaned up. Your fish and turtles and stuff in there, you know.
What about snakes?
Well, we had one pond over there that had some willow trees growing back up in the shallow part. And that thing had a bunch of water boxes in it. And we'd go over and dive in them snakes in the head for the trees over there and swim around them. Well, there was 3 or 4 of us over one day swimming and going on there, and these snakes was over around them trees. They swim their head above the water. So we thought we'd have some fun, so we goes out and get some rocks and come back there and chunking them. We had them snakes just going everywhere trying to get away. So we was all, around them. And so I run out of rocks. And I think, well, I'll go to the bank, get me some rocks, and I swims over and just where I could stand up and walk out. And something bit me right here. I jumped straight up and hollered out, and I said, well, one of them bit me. But, so that stopped the chunking of the water boxes.
And what'd they do for your leg, though?
Well, it just barely bled a little bit. And you could see 2 little prints. And I began to think maybe it's a turtle got me. I don't know. But I have heard that if a snake bites you underwater, it won't poison you. Now, I don't know whether that's true or not. So to this day, I don't know whether it was a water moccasin or a turtle. But it could have been one of them dirty water boxes got mad, come over and got me.
So your leg didn't swell up any at all?
No, it didn't swell. I had no sickness from it. And but we didn't chuck no water bostons anymore.
Now, growing up on the farm, your typical day would start. How early did you get up and start working?
Well, you usually start work by the time you can see. By the time we got lighter enough to see. In fact, we have gone out to pick cotton when we'd have to lay down on the sack there 20 or 30 minutes for it to get light enough to see the cotton good enough to pick it. And that used to make us so mad. We think, boy, I could have spent this half hour up there in the bed.
When you pick cotton, though, it's a hot day typically.
Yeah, usually that's in August. And up around 100 degrees, bad, I'll tell you what. But the coolest you could get was the shade. We didn't have no air conditioning then, see.
Were you a pretty good cow milker?
Yeah, I could milk out pretty good.
Was it easy to begin with?
Well, I just started out as a kid, and it wasn't too easy then, but after a little while, it don't take long to get to where you can milk a cow easy.
What was your least favorite chore around the farm?
My least favorite. I don't know if there was one.
Was it?
Never did think about it.
Was it
the plowing? Well, the only thing I didn't like about that is it all going along all day long on that. But I didn't mind plowing. And you just don't think about it. It's to do, and you do it.
Did you do any hunting and fishing as a kid?
Oh yeah, we used to hunt squirrels and possums and rabbits and all that down there on the farm.
Would you eat them?
Oh yeah.
You eat possum?
One time's all we ever eat possum. Mama wouldn't cook possum, but we had some colored people lived up there not very far from us. And usually we'd sell them the possum for a quarter. That's where we kept ourselves in shells for the gun. We'd sell them possum for a quarter, and that'd buy over 2 boxes, 100 shells, see. And then I think it cost us 10 cents a box for 50. And,
what type of gun did you have?
well, the kind I had was a 22. Now, Dad had a 38-40, and I still have that old gun. In fact, it belongs to my grandpa. It's over 100 years old. It's a saddle gun. And you'd watch Western movies, you see him pull it out of the boot, and that's lever. That's what it is. And that was Grandpa's. He wore that on his saddle all the time.
Now, were there any deer up in this area?
No, we didn't have any deer. We had sometimes be a few antelope down in there or something like that. And,
Antelope?
yeah. I don't know how they got in there, but somebody must have brought some of them down there or something. And they bred, you know. But I don't know whether it's in there or not now. And there's coyotes down there. We used to hunt and kill some coyotes.
Did you used to hang them on the fence
Now,
just to keep coyotes away? They'll
Yeah.
eat your chickens.
yeah. Yeah, the other chickens are baby calves. And we used to kill coyotes. We had jackrabbits down there. I know there's a colored guy had some greyhound dogs. And he always wanted to come in there pasture. The way our pasture laid, it wasn't very wide, but it was just about 1 mile long. And you jump them jackrabbits back down there in the flat, and the first thing they'd do is head for the hill where they could really run. And so he'd go down there in the south end and get them dogs after a jackrabbit. They could run it for a mile, and very few times they'd catch them jackrabbits too. My jackrabbits get away from them. Took a good dog to run with a jackrabbit.
From a standpoint of the schools you attended, which schools did you attend from first grade all the way through high school?
Well, I started out at a little school called Grayland School. It's not there today. It hadn't been a school there in years. But they taught from the primer. That's where we started in was primer. Primer through the 7th grade.
Where was that? Is that it's not there anymore?
No, it was just a spot out there, about 3 miles north of, well, for Pete's sakes, where we went to town all the time. They had my mind when I started to tell you. But anyway, from a little old town there, and there's not much of that town left anymore. And back in them days, there was 2 gyms there, and 2 filling stations, a drugstore, 2 grocery stores, a barber shop. I think that's about it. It was about a block and a half long.
That was closer to your house than Honey
That
Grove?
was 6 miles. It was 6 miles from us there. Ben Franklin. Ben Franklin was the name of the place.
Do you remember some of the names of the grocery stores there and who ran them and the service stations?
Carlock and Black is where we did most of our trading.
Which one?
Carlock and Black. That was the guy's names. Carlock was the main one, and Black had married Carlock's daughter. So they named the store Carlock Block, and they both run it together there. That's where we traded.
When you say traded, what
We bought our groceries and stuff.
did you bring them things and swap, kind of bartered with them?
Well, sometimes they'd buy eggs from us, and I don't think they ever bought any. Yeah, they bought some beef from us too. That is, they buy the cattle and butcher them, put them in there, because we didn't buy meat. We had chickens and eggs and dogs. Also, we always had all kinds of plenty of meat. And then when we kill rabbits, us boys would eat the rabbits and leave this beef. There's times when we'd come in from school every evening. We'd go in there and get a steak and put it between a biscuit. That'd be a snack before supper tonight. And that's about, you go to a cafe today, that'd be about a $12 steak today.
You were hungry fellas.
That we'd eat as a sandwich before we had supper.
Now the service stations, do you remember who ran those service stations?
Today I can't remember. I knew them then. Of course, I was just a kid.
What type were they? Were they Sinclair or Humble or?
No, they was the ones that was over there. I don't think that name. They were just there's 2 or 3 of them there. They just had the independent name, Joe Station or Bill Station. I don't know if they even had any signs up.
I forgot to ask you, the stove in your house, was that a wood burning or coal stove?
Wood.
Who did all the wood chopping?
Me and Dad and my brother, just younger than me.
Well, this area of the country has pecan trees. Did you use any of those?
Oh yeah, we had 1, 2. We had 5 big pecan trees on that pasture. Oh yeah, and there was 2 over on that 40 acres. I remember Dad and I was over on one day, and I was way up in the tree there, thrashing out pecans. And I walked out on the limb, and that thing broke under me. And I just automatically threw my arms out, and I caught a limb, and I was way up there. And I just accidentally caught a limb, and I was hanging there. And I hollered at Dad, and he said, well, hold on. Well, I kind of got myself together, and of course I was pretty strong then for my weight, so I pulled myself up on the limb and got up. But I'll tell you, that'd been a long fall. I bet you I was up there 30 feet. But I watched the limbs that I got on from then on before I crawled out on one of them.
Where did you go to junior high then? From our high school, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th?
No, the 7th grade as far as I got. And I went 2 years. I made passing grades, but it didn't go enough. You've got to put in so many days out of the school year to pass. And that's when I said we had that tractor. And about the only time I'd get to go to school was when it was too wet to plow. That's the way kids did then. You had work. And after 2 years in the same grade, I said, I'm not going to try anymore, so I didn't go back to school. I said, I'll never get out of the 7th grade. I couldn't put in enough days.
Was it the same way with your brothers as well?
No, they didn't have to run it. Now, of course, after I left there when I was about, I was either 16 or 17, I forget, somewhere right in there.
Where'd you go?
Well, I came to Denison. I had $1 in my pocket. When I walked away from down there and I hitchhiked up here to Denison, I went to work at a filling station here with Paige Foster. And I worked from 7 o'clock in the evening till 7 o'clock in the morning for $1. Now, I'm not talking about $1 an hour, I'm talking about for $1 for the 12 hours. That was going wage then.
What type of things would you do at the service station?
Well, at the service station then, you serviced the customer. You went out and washed the windshield, checked the oil, checked the water, checked the air, the tires, put the gas in, and everything. It was a service station today. It's a filling station, I guess, and you go fill up yourself.
What type of gas was he selling? Gulf or something like that? Do you remember?
I don't know where he got his gas from. I was there, and the truck that come in, I don't even remember having the name on it. And the station didn't have a name on it except...
Where was it located?
Down there, if I remember right, it was on the corner of Sears and the other street going this way. I can't think of the name of that street right now.
Is the building still there?
No. There's somebody's got a little workshop or something there now, I think. And and I was staying with my sister in just across the river. What's the name of that town there? Colbert. And I walked to work and back from Colbert to Denison.
Now, how far is that?
It's about 5 miles or 5 or 6 miles, something like that.
Well, that takes care of most of your day, walking back and forth, working and eating and sleeping.
And but I worked 12 hours from 7 to 7. I finally bought me a bicycle and was riding a bicycle, which was a whole lot better. But I didn't do that long till now this is the kicker, I got fired from that job. At that time, my mother and dad was separating, and they had the trial in Paris. I'd get off work at 7 in the morning. I'd hitchhike to Paris and go through some court deal and stuff there. I'd hitchhike back and get back at 7 o'clock and go to work. Well, I did that about 3 days. I did that on sleep. So one night, about the third night, I laid my head over on the desk and went to sleep, and the old man Foster came by and filled his car up and took off and told Paige about it. And so Paige come down there the next morning and fired me for being asleep on the job. So I got on my bicycle. I'm going back to Colbert. There's an old man hoeing corn right this side of the river. And out there by himself. And so I waited till he got out of the end where I was by the road, and I pulled off the road, got into these sandbars, punctured one of the tires on my bicycle. And I asked if he needed help. He said, yeah. He says, I pay $1 a day. And all I ask you to do is just hold right along with me. I said, okay. So I had to come back to Denison and pay $1 for a coal. You could buy a hoe for $1 then. And so I went out there and went to work with him, worked for him for a few days out there hoeing. And then I came back up and went to work at a filling station, Max Golden Gas. He was right there with the ice house. So.
And that was in Colbert?
No, that was here in Denison. I came back to Denison.
Where was it located here in Denison?
It was right by the old ice house down there. It was on Woodard Street, and this other street I'm trying to think of, it goes north and south, but I can't remember the name of it.
Is it still there?
Ice house, no, it's tore down. The old foundation, the slab's all still there.
Gas station, is it still there?
No, the gas station's not there. And there was a little old place there right by it, and I forget what to call the name of it. Had milkshakes and candies and soda pops and like that. And I know I drank some of that chocolate milk. I thought that was the greatest stuff I ever got hold of. And I had a piece of tin. You know what a creeper is that you use that's on roller wheels to roll under vehicles? Okay, well, what we used for a creeper then was just a plain piece of tin to lay on under, and that's what I slept on at night. I stayed there at the station to sleep on that at night. And good stuff. He was paying me about $1 a day, but I stay in there around 24 hours a day. But he working most of the time in the daytime, but I didn't keep it open all night at night there then. And then I went from there to New Mexico.
How'd you end up in New Mexico?
Well, my sister that I was telling you about over here, she had married a guy out there, and they was putting in a nursery out there west of Clovis, New Mexico. And he was out a little old town named Tolar, T-O-L-A-R, Tolar. That's about halfway between Clovis and Fort Sumter.
Remember what his name was?
Kirshner.
Persner?
Kirshner, K-E-R-S-H-N-E-R. And he had lost his wife. He had a nursery in Lubbock. And he'd met my sister, and they got married, and he was putting in another nursery out there and needed some help, so I went out there and went to work for them. And worked for them for a while.
How much were you making there?
$25 a month plus room and board.
So less than $1 a day.
Yeah, but I got room and board. That was the going rate out for nearly everything out there then. I worked for them for a while, and then I finally went to work in the with a, well, why can't I call his name now? Anyway, he had a gravel pit out there and a little store. He had feed and gas and a few grocery items and stuff.
This is in Tolar?
Yeah, in Tolar. I'll think of the name in a minute. I know it well as no moan. But anyway, I worked there at that store for a while, and and I decided I wanted to get into the gravel hauling business. Russell, Mr. Russell, that was his name, and he had a son who was a little older than me. I can't think of his name now. But anyway, I got me an old truck, and I started hauling sand and gravel and selling it, and Mr. Russell had made a contract with Clovis. They were going to do a lot of the street paving and all there. And he told me I could haul, and all I had to do was just pay him for what I paid for it. What they paid would be my profit, which is what you got all the time anyway. But it come a freeze out there. This was in 1940. And the pit froze up out there, and we couldn't haul. And Kirshner had a son. He was a little older than I am, and he came out there to visit his dad. And at that time, the government had made a law that all that come 19 years old was going to have to sign with the draft board or go with the National Guard for a year. And he belonged to the National Guard, and he says, what time of all times like it is, says, won't you just go sign up in the National Guard for a year and get it over with, you know. I said, that sounds like a good idea. So I went to Lubbock. I think this was about November the 24th, 1940. I could be wrong on some of these dates.
Did you think we were going to go to war at that point?
No, I never even thought about it. I just thought, well, he's, needs an army. So I joined up on November the 24th.
Now let me ask you something. I'm gonna go back a little bit to your schooling. How big a school? How many kids were in that schoolhouse?
Now I went to another school after that, and I didn't tell you about it. I just went there to the first one for about.
That was Grayland.
Yeah, at Grayland, and then I moved to the one in. What was the name of the school? There's north of us there about a mile. That had 2 rooms. Now I don't know why we moved over there, but for some reason we did. And that school's all gone too now. That had been gone for years.
Now at Grayland.
Harmon School, Harmon, H-A-R-M-A-N, Harmon. There was a little store there. And
Was that the 7th grade also?
yeah, they went higher than the 7th grade. I think that's why we moved over. My older sisters was getting in higher grades, so we all went over to go to school. Yeah, they were past 7th. See, they was 8. I think that school went up to the 9th or 10th, somewhere along there.
Do you remember any of your teachers?
Their names right now I can't call. But anyway, the first school where you was talking about how many, I guess there's probably about 25 or 30 kids there.
All in one room?
Yeah.
So the teacher taught all these different grades?
The primer was in this row, 1st grade, 2nd grade, just kind of rolled up and she'd go from one to the next. Didn't turn over and start over again.
Was she a pretty good teacher?
She was a fine teacher. I stayed there till I must have been in the 4th or 5th grade, somewhere like that. And there was a little old fasty girl there that moved there from Arkansas. And she was quite a big cut up, and it got to where the boys and the girls was cut up so much until we lined up to march in. She'd make the boys line up here and the girls there, plus 2 different lines. And usually let the girls march in first, So we lined up there one day and been messing around with that little girl, and they wore these bloomers way down here with elastic, so and popped that elastic, and she jumped. Teacher didn't say anything. She marched the girls in. We come marching in, had to go up about 3 steps on the porch and then in the building. I walked up there, she just reached over and collared me. She says, "Hoover, you're not going to do that anymore, are you?" I says, "No, ma'am." I didn't know she'd say before she grabbed me by the collar. I knew what she was talking about. But she was a fine woman. And she got along good with all kids, but she'd lay it on you if you needed. They didn't play around with kids. The teacher was the boss then. And if you got a whipping in school, you go home to tell your parents that for something you usually got another one.
Who was the disciplinarian at home, Mom or Dad?
Dad was the worst, but you didn't fool with Mom either. Back in them days, Mom and Daddy was running the roost.
Did they ever say why they decided to just separate?
Well, Dad was a little bit on the mean side. I could see he was half Indian, and I guess he took some from his mama. And he'd knock Mama around some once in a while. And that's one reason I left home, was me and him was just about to get into it. And we'd already had kind of a pretty close get together a time or 2 before that.
How about your brothers? Did they have the same feelings you did?
Yeah, pretty well. And what he showed me, he left there sometimes a few years after that. I don't know just when, because I wasn't around anymore.
What about your sisters? Did they get out as fast as they could?
Yeah. Yeah, my two older sisters left together, and then the fourth one left, and then the third one left. In age, I'm talking about.
But your parents never had, they never had any trouble putting food on the table.
No. We always had plenty of food.
Did you have people coming up to the farm looking for work in exchange for food during the Depression?
Yeah, and everybody always gives. Another thing I was saying about these colored people lived up, they worked for Mr. Rowland. That was a guy, he had his land joined us to the front of the house. And that was his helpers over there. And once in a while we'd hear somebody in the chicken house at night. We didn't care. We knew who it was. And we hunt some with them boys. And I know that one time they said, come on, go have dinner with us. And I said, what are you having? Chicken. We're having chicken. Well, I knew what to go to have. I said, no. But we didn't care. Like I said, we didn't know how many chickens we had. If they want to come get chicken, if they'd ask us one, we'd give them to them anyhow. But I guess they felt better by just taking it. And finally, they got a hold of an old cow down there one time. They didn't have no pasture. They just stake her out on the road to eat grass. Well, she'd get loose and get in our cornfield, and she'd tear up more than she'd eat. You know, just Dad holler. And she was like our second mama because she come down to take care of Mama from there. One of us kids when we was born down there, see. Carrie Cotton. And we used to give them milk before they had the cow. And
You could say your families were pretty close then.
yeah. So one day that cow got in there and just right by the house there and just messed up a bunch of corn. Dad caught her and tied her up out there in front of the house. You could see her from her house. You could see the cow tied up there. And she come out there the next morning, hard down to the saw Dad out in the front yard. Said, Mr. Hoover, you seen my cow? Said she got loose last night. Dad said, no, I had to see her, and they both looking at her. And well, you see, so hollers at me. He said, okay. So how long she was out there hollering at him again. And she says, well, I sure do need to find that cow. Says her milk's going to go bad if she don't get milked, which they will. And Dad says, well, and of course, Dad already milked the cow. Keep her from anything happening to her. So finally she come down and got the cow. Dad gave her the milk. But he was trying to get her to quit letting that cow get loose and get in her cornfield all the time. But these chickens, they had come get them chickens every now and then. We knew when they had chickens because there's the whole chicken house down there go to squawking and hollering.
Who were some of your closest friends growing up?
Well, there had been a name of Douglas Whitten. Douglas Whitten was my best buddy, and they lived about a mile and a half from us, I guess. And he's dead now. He died just a few years ago. He lived down at Petty, just the other side of Harney Grove there. But they were good people. I went to school with him.
Did he serve in World War II?
Yeah, I think he did, but I don't know where he went.
Did you have any close friends or friends that you knew that passed away or died in World War II from this area growing up?
No. The other closest one to me that died in World War II was from New Mexico. I knew 2 or 3 of the guys was my friends out there. And I can't think of their last names now.
Now you got it. I'm gonna jump back forward a little bit up to now. You're inducted at Lubbock. So what do they do with you then?
Well, we stayed there at the armory for a while, not very long, and then they moved us down to Camp Bowie, which was in Brownwood, and was the 36th Division. And it was made up, the 36th Division, these other guys probably told you this story though, about how it was made up. From National Guard armies from Denison and Jacksboro and Lubbock and Wichita Falls and Abilene. And then there's some places out of Oklahoma. Because at that time we wore what we knew was known as the tiara patch. You ever see one of those?
Mm-hmm.
You know
Arrowhead.
You know what it stands for? The R was for Oklahoma and the T was for Texas. That's why it was a tiara, Texas and Oklahoma. But it's made a T, and then the D was an arrow. It's Texas and Oklahoma. Well, after we got down there, they began to get draftees in from other states. So they didn't like that. They said, well, we're not from Texas and Oklahoma. So they banned us from wearing that tiara patch for a while. But it's back again now, I understand. The ones that's in these National Guards around here now can wear the tiara patch again. But they banned it there for a while.
Now, were they paying you any money when you were drafted?
Yeah, $21 a month.
And that's with room and board too, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it was, the first check I ever got was for $1. After being there 2 or 3 days, well, Lieutenant Boring walked up to me and he handed me a check, and I took it and looked at it. $1. I said, what's that for? He says the day that you was in the National Guard, they mobilized the next day after I signed up.
Was this Joe Boren?
No, Joe Bowen, no. There was 2 Borens in there, and one of them was a sergeant and one was a lieutenant. Yeah, I said, no, I don't know, it could have been. I don't remember what his first name was. Oh, we just called him Lieutenant Bowen.
He wasn't from A&M, was he?
I don't know. I think he was from the Lubbock area. He lived out around Lubbock area. But if he had a first name, I can't even remember. No, it was just Lieutenant Bowen.
What were you living in there at Camp Bowie?
We just had a cot there at the Army. Out there at the.
Did they actually put you through any exercises or field training?
Oh yeah, every day we was doing marches and training with rifles and how to break them down, put them together, and working with. We had field guns. We had them 3-inch field guns.
How'd you like the transition from peacetime to being told what to do? Did you?
That didn't bother me because I knew that's, I knew that was coming.
Were you a pretty good shot then?
In shock.
I mean, a shot. Were you a good shot?
Oh yeah, God, I had shot a gun since when I was so little. On that 38-40, I couldn't hold it up. Dad'd get on his knees, and I'd lay it on his shoulder so I could shoot. I wasn't able to hold the gun. I wasn't strong enough to hold the gun up. So I'd shot all my life. You might say, I don't know how old I was, but I must have started shooting when I was maybe 5, 6 years old.
So you became a good shot. You were automatically a good shot.
You know, I was telling you about them jackrabbits. When I was 11 years old, Dad bought me a single shot 22 and I still got it. Broke down like a shotgun, put a shell in there. And I got so good, I did water rabbit set, and I wanted a jackrabbit running. Let that jackrabbit run across yard, and I'd shoot him, and he'd roll. That's the reason I wanted to shoot him on the run, just to watch him roll from his speed. I could, from here to that fence out there, I could knock the head off of a match.
Did you become an expert marksman then?
No, I never did. I didn't do rifle when I was in the service. I was on the big guns when I was on guns.
Well, literally though, the exercise and that type of stuff was easy for you then.
Yeah, I know no trouble.
Did there seem to be any misfits in the group that were getting in trouble all the time? Couldn't go left, right, those types of things?
Well, two or three of them. One guy, I can't even call his name now. I was around him quite a bit then too. He'd go out for a reveille in the morning, forget to wear his hat or forget to put a tie on or button his shirt. And then there was another one, he was from Lubbock. He couldn't march, he didn't know left foot from right foot hardly, you know, and there was just about two or three of them.
Well, a lot of these were country kids too, weren't they?
Yeah, a big part of them were.
A lot of them had health issues though, with teeth and other things like that, didn't they? Did they have to take care of them when they got in the Army then?
Well, not that I know of, bad. I mean, of course, everybody had some problems here, there, and yonder, but I mean, I don't know if any of them was real bad about anything.
Did they teach you fighting and things like that and how to
yeah.
wrestle? Were you a pretty good wrestler?
Yeah, and well, I'll tell you what, I get these spelled all along. His brother was in the Navy, Bob Ritchie. His brother, Babe Ritchie, was in the Navy, and he was a champion boxer. And Bob used to spar with him. And Bob weighed about 225. And he had arms like a gorilla. And he was going to teach me and Tidwell how to box. Tidwell was a close friend of mine. He and I used to box. And then there was Buster Holt and Glenn Seff was what they call Golden Glove boys. You ever know anything about the Golden Glove? Mm-hmm. Golden Glove. So, but me and Tidwell wasn't too good. We always knew how to do this kind of rough fights, you know. But in boxing, they beat you because they was faster and knew how to guard themselves. So Bob Ritchie was going to teach us how to fight, box. We had them tents out there with a wooden floor in it, and about big enough for about 4 or 5 guys to sleep in, but we had one empty. And he'd take us over and put gloves on us, and he'd put a pair of gloves on. He'd lock the door. And he'd take us both on at the same time, because he weighed about as much as both of us put together. And he'd show us how to guard and how to hit and this, that, and the other. And he said, now if you let your guard down, it won't hit you. Well, once in a while he'd punch us with a jab, and man, I tell you, just like he doesn't jump near a bone in your body. And he'd go over the clock like regular rounds. And we'd get so weak. Them was using 16-ounce gloves where you can't cut a man or hurt him with the 16-ounce gloves, too much padding. But he could hit with a 225-pound man, he hit you with a 16-ounce glove, you know, whenever you all weighed about 150. And we'd get out there and he'd make us fight. Them gloves would be so heavy we couldn't hardly raise our arms up. We'd say to fall down there when it's rest time. Okay, it's time to go. We do well to get on our feet. No, let's live a little bit longer. Listen, to get on your feet, see if you don't want to hit you sitting down there. And he got us where we were pretty good fighters. I used to fight some, not professional, but like when we was on the ship going over, and other times when we'd meet up with other guys like the Australians or English or something, we'd have contests. I nearly always fought in them.
Well, now, you ended up in a field artillery battalion, or regiment.
That's what it was.
How'd you end up there?
That's where I joined. When I joined this field artillery.
You
That's what I
enjoyed?
said. That's the reason we didn't have too much rifle deal, because we was on the big guns.
How'd you like those big guns?
I liked them.
How'd you move them around?
We put them behind the truck. Yeah, they're on wheels. Big truck wheels.
They're pretty noisy, aren't they?
Oh, Lord, yeah. And there for a while I was loading. The shells weighed, I think, 35 pounds, at least what a shell weighed. And get that thing and shove her up in that barrel, and then the other guy shut the breech on it. I did that for a while. Yeah, when you fire them, they told us, throw your mouth open whenever you're going to holler fire. And it kind of blocks your eardrums off. And I always did that. And I didn't have no trouble, but there's a lot of the guys that it nearly made them go deaf. Because that thing makes quite an explosion.
Did you guys get to be a pretty good shot then?
Yeah. Yeah, they got to. I didn't sit to the side seat. There was two guys. There's a seat on this side and a seat on this side. One of them worked the up and down. Another one kind of this, what it didn't have a whole lot. But then the forward man up yonder, a lot of times when we shooting, we didn't know what was hitting. We didn't, because see, you shoot out there maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 miles. And a lot of times you didn't see the target. The observation would call back down there and tell you where the target was, and the guys set the guns to go that distance. And they also had detonators in them shells. They had a box over here, you said the number that set the detonation of where that thing would explode. We could explode that thing in the air if we wanted to. Set that detonator, give it 2 seconds or 3 seconds or whatever, the time you go, and then it explode. Or you could set it where it would explode on contact.
Now, the detonator sitting by its side, away from the shell.
That's what's called the cutter. You cut it at a certain, on this cutter, you set that cutter and then you put that on there and cut your fuse. It's like if you got a fuse here, you light this end, it takes it so long to get here. Well, that thing, if you maybe want to fuse this long, or maybe you want to fuse this long before it explodes.
Were these French guns?
Yeah.
Now, were you using wadding then, as far as?
No, they was all loaded in the shell.
Were any of the guys that you trained with, were they shipped out with you and also captured?
A whole bunch.
Who were some of the guys in you're working on your battery there?
Oh, in my battery? It's hard for me to remember which one was just in our battery because I got so clean with everybody on the
Luther wasn't in your battery, was he?
F battery. I believe he was.
So you were in
I was in the F battery.
36th Division.
131st Field Artillery.
And
Battery F, yeah.
And was that the 2nd Battalion?
Yeah. Actually, when I joined up in Lubbock, I was in the 1st Battalion. And when we moved down to camp, they were going to move the 2nd Battalion out, and they didn't have a full force. So they pulled a bunch of us from the 1st Battalion to the 2nd Battalion. See, I was in Battery C. There's A, B, C, D, E, and F. Well, I was in A, B, C. And when I turned down here, I wound up in D, E, and F. And the boys in A went to here, see. But was in a different. Battery C, 131st Field Artillery. Went to Battery F, 131st Field Artillery, the 2nd Battalion, this 1st Battalion.
Now, did you have any spare time to go into Brownwood?
Oh yeah, we got bypasses nearly every weekend.
Well, what places would you go to there?
Oh, just get up and just chase around over town or something. Go get a beer.
Didn't they have a neat hotel there, though, in Brownwood? A big hotel at that time.
Yeah, I think there was, because we didn't stay overnight. I never did stay overnight up there.
But now, when were you a little surprised when you were detached from the 36th Division and sent to, or you went to California first, didn't you?
Oh yeah, we
Had Pearl Harbor occur? When did Pearl Harbor occur along this line?
Well, we had just gone through there. Now, I noticed the other day, I read that, who was the guy who said, I read that part about, he said it was 10 days out, but I think he was wrong on that.
That was 2.
2?
That's what I heard.
That's kind of what I'm thinking, is just about 2 or 3 days out, because that convoy, the way we understand, was sitting here. Pearl Harbor was here, and the Philippines is here. we're going here. So actually we were closer to that convoy than Pearl Harbor was. See? So we couldn't have been too far out. And when we heard about it hitting Pearl Harbor, we changed course and come over here to the Fiji Islands. And took on some supplies there.
How did you find out? How did you officially find out on board ship that?
I don't know how the news got out there. Now we had radio contact. We could listen to the radio on the ship.
Was it announced over the ship then?
Yeah, and then it was announced. Now I don't know how the captain got the word, and or whether it was him or someone else. There was 9 ships in that convoy. And so they all turned and going towards the Fiji Islands.
When he announced it, did that mean anything to everybody on board?
Oh, yeah. And he said, now we haven't declared war. Says we're not allowed to shoot anybody. We said, the hell we're not. Said, if we pulled our guns out of the hole and brought them up and set them up on deck. And on that old ship, there was one anti-aircraft gun on the tail end of it, and there was 2 machine gun pits up on each side up yonder. It seemed like there was one other gun turret on that thing. I can't remember for sure. But we manned them, or they did. I didn't. I manned them because I wasn't on the gun crew at that time. And the gun crews manned the guns at that time. That's the reason I don't know any more about what went on, because I didn't go on the guns there on the ship. But I do know that they did. And they was all ready to shoot if they come over. The next morning, we got news over the radio that we were sunk. That's what I was telling you a while ago. And they called, now this is news from America. And they called the name of every ship in that convoy. So the Japs had called, some way and called our government, I guess, and told them they had sunk our ships. And I guess they didn't hear anything different, because the next morning we was listening to the radio and we got the same report. We were sunk again that night. See? And I think all that saved us was it was a haze come over the day they hit Pearl Harbor. He'd got a real heavy haze over, and you couldn't see and the sun wasn't shining. And all that saved us is they turned this way instead of going on that way. If they'd went on down that way, they'd have got us.
Did you think we were going to be in the middle of a war even before Pearl Harbor occurred?
Yeah. When we came through Pearl Harbor, we stopped there one night. Stayed over one night. And I saw all this there. And I think, why? I never saw so many ships in my life, you know. And I think, why in the world would all these ships be in this harbor at one time? And we pulled out there, and there's a little yacht in this convoy with us. And we'd got word that if we would write a letter, this was after they hit it, that this yacht was going to turn around from the Fiji Islands and try to come back to America. So we wrote a letter, and I wrote a letter to Ruth Knudsen, a girlfriend of mine in New Mexico. And I told her in the letter, I said, Ruth, looks like we're going to get into a war. But got back home, and I asked her about it. She didn't get the letter, and to come find out the little yacht got sunk and never did get back to the States. I'd have given anything in the world if I'd have had that letter showing a buck private. Now this was probably one day before they hit it when I wrote the letter. but it'd been 2 or 3 days maybe from the time I thought this.
Who was the commander of your particular gun or battery?
Of our Colonel Thorpe. Colonel Thorpe was the commander of the all 500 and something. It was 558 or something like that.
Was he a pretty good fella, or?
Yeah, he was a little red-headed guy from Amarillo, and he was a good guy.
Now, prior to you getting to Pearl Harbor, didn't they ship you out? They detached you from the 36th Division.
Yeah.
They sent you to California.
Yeah.
What'd you do there?
Well, we just stayed in camp. We was out at Angel Island, a little old place out just past Alcatraz there. You go from there right by Alcatraz out to Angel Island. And we were there a few days. I don't remember how many, maybe a week that we was there before they brought us back into San Francisco's and loaded us on the, what was the name of that old ship? I thought I knew from the USS Liberty. No? Gosh, I can't remember the name of that ship right now.
Was it a very big ship?
Yeah, it was a big old ship, and from what we found out, it had been captured during World War II.
Or one?
World War One. And it was an old dude, and them sailors was a scraping of the paint on it all the time, and we always swore if that hadn't been for paint, the thing would have sunk.
Did you get seasick?
Yeah, I didn't. I never did tossable cookies, but a lot of them did. I mean, some of them throwed it up, man. It was bad.
It can be pretty smelly down in that hole, can't it?
Yeah, but most of them try to run to the side and throw it over the side. And yeah, some of them got awfully sick on that, but I didn't. And Slug Right, we called him Slug Right. That's what his name is. He was more of an office type guy, and he couldn't find his way out of a paper bag, as we always called him Slugger. But he found out about a seasick pill. So he buys him a seasick pill. And after he gets on the boat, he takes it when he finds out she's supposed to take that about 4 or 5 hours before you get on the boat, because it makes you sicker to take it too late. He took it too late. So his pills did him more harm than did good. But I never did get that sick.
So the food was okay on board the ship?
Yeah, they had good food there because I got used to eating Navy beans for breakfast. But after we got off that ship, I missed them old beans for breakfast.
Did they let you off at Fiji at all, or did you just stop?
No.
Did you have any submarine scares?
Yeah, we didn't have that until we left Australia. So we went from Fiji to Australia.
You went through the hot part, though. Isn't it pretty hot on board that ship during the day?
Across the equator.
Was it that hot?
Man, it's hot. You can't touch anything out in that sun. And you get initiated when you cross the 180th meridian. And we was on there with a bunch of Yankees from up north, Air Force group. And they fixed up a tank out there, and they called it the barber shop. And they'd set you in the chair up on the edge of this tank of water and shave your head, or clip it as far as clips would get, and then dump you backwards over in this water, and then there's 2 or 3 guys in there to hold you down, and you could holler pollywog. So we went through a pretty rough initiation there.
But officers also have to go through it, don't they?
Yeah, everybody goes through that deal there, and it got rough. But we went through. I know one thing was hard to get through. They had these wind chutes that they put up sometimes and put down in the hole, so get air down in the hole. It's about this big around, I guess. And when I was crawling through, as long as near that fence out there, and you crawl in there, and this guy's up there at the end with a fire hose, shooting water down through there. When you get up there, if it hits you just right, it scoots you back. You'd have to crawl up again. You had to fight your way up against the water to get out of there. And that was pretty hard to do. I got scooted back 2 or 3 days. As long as you kind of keep ducking around, well, you can get by, but whenever that water hits you straight on, it just slides you down the chute. There's a lot of pressure behind them things.
You never saw any Japanese subs or planes then, did you, while you were in your convoy?
The only time we run into things like that is when we left Brisbane.
How'd you like Australia?
I loved it. Them Australian people are good people, and they were good to us.
Did you get to spend any time there in Australia?
Yeah, we had Christmas there, and they made us a Christmas dinner. You know what they made? They've got all kinds of good beef over there, and they eat mutton. So they got a 55-gallon barrel and filled it about half full of water and threw a bunch of mutton in there and boiled it up. I guess put some seasoned stuff in there. And you know that was pretty good. Of course, at that time we'd eat anything. But they fed us mutton for a Christmas dinner.
Where'd you stay while you were there in it's Brisbane, right?
Yeah.
Did they keep you inside a stadium, or where'd they keep you?
No, you know, it was just some kind of big building. I don't remember just what that thing was. But of course, I was gone there all the time. I just go over and sleep at night, basically. Eat. Well, me and Buster and James Morris, they was out prowling around through town, drinking some beer and going skating. They had a skating rink there. We'd go straight in.
Did you meet any of the Australian women?
Yeah, we had a girl we picked up at the skating rink down there. And we went with them 2 or 3 different times. And I know mine was Scotch. She was a Scotch gal. And it's kind of hard to understand their language over there. And I make a remark to her. I said, "You sound like a Dutchman. I can't hear what you're saying." She says, "Well, I'm not." She says, "Me mother's Scotch, me father's Scotch, and I'm Scotch." And the way she said it, it really struck me. So every once in a while, I'd say, "Quit talking like a Dutchman." "I'm no Dutchman, me mother." She'd go through that every time.
But they, so you got orders again now, but by now you know there's a war on.
Oh, yeah. But, so we're strays over there. See, we're not attached to anybody. And I don't know how Colonel Thorpe got, or how they got hold of Thorpe. But what was left of the 19th Bomb Group in the Philippines, they flew over to the Dutch East Indies, Java. And I believe they said out of 30-some-odd planes, they got 9 planes off the field and flew to Java. Now they don't have a ground crew. See, it's just the pilots and co-pilots and so forth. Some way they got in contact with us in Australia and wanted us to come over and work for their ground crew. So Thorpe, some way, finds this Dutchman wanting to go there because that's where they're from. And that ship, I think, was a Bloemfontein, I believe was the name of it. And it was a diesel electric icebreaker. You know, icebreaker had a long bow like this, did down like this. And that thing run about 35 knots. And we got on there at Brisbane and started out, we get up to Darwin. We stopped at Darwin for some reason, I don't know why. But I think that's where he got the word that he couldn't get to Java because he had to go through the Saudi Straits. And that was considered closed, that the Japs had submarines out there and you couldn't get through. So we talked it over, Harris talked it over. And this Dutchman told us, says, "If y'all stand guard around my ship, and tell me when you see a torpedo coming," said, "I'll miss him." So we did. And I didn't even see one on my guard, but I know I was in the hole there one day on the front hole down there, me and 4 or 5 of us playing blackjack. And my buddy James Morris was on starboard bow there. And I heard him holler, "Torpedo coming on starboard bow." That's where we were. And they had a little old ladder there about this wide, just iron strips up, little bars across for steps. Then we hit that thing, we come out, and as soon as I got up, I saw Morrison looking like this. And I looked like that, and there it went. It went right under the bow of that ship. And that's the closest I ever saw. And he missed it. He'd cut that ship in two, see? See, this is coming here, and we're going here.
How many men was everybody on that ship? All 558 men on that ship?
And all of our equipment. And not only that, but we had black powder, bombs, airplane gas. If he'd hit that ship, it'd still been blowing up. But there's a time or two I thought he was going to turn that dirt ship over. He had cut so fast, and he had let be on. It wasn't a real big ship. It was about 3 stories high, and you could holler from nearly the world on the deck, and he could hear you. He had his windows open on his cabin up there. And you just holler out real loud, and he could hear you. And boy, he whenever we left, he kicked that thing wide open, and that's the way we went all the way.
So at night, it's got to be even doubly dangerous, isn't it?
Well, we didn't. We went through there in the daytime, through this strip in the daytime, and about we got through there a little afternoon, I guess it was, because we met the USS Liberty. They was trying to come out, and they got sunk. And about 3 o'clock that evening, we saw some rescue boats going out to pick up survivors.
Were you on job at this time?
No, we were still on the ship.
Mm-hmm.
And so we gets on the job, gets unloaded, and everything, and been there 2 or 3 days when, I don't know how it come about, but they brought a deserter out to our camp there. We was at the airport there, and this holding him was prisoner. He was on that ship, deserting. He got on that ship in the Philippines and was trying to get back to the States. He was deserting the army. So we held him as a prisoner there. And during this time, we got over, they guys had those B-17D. They didn't have a tail gun on them. And then they come out with the B-17E that had the tail gun. Well, them Japs are used to coming on the tail, so every guy went out on the tail gun, he was dead. Whether the plane got back or not, if he did, he was dead. You could bet on that. And what they would do, say for instance, you was going out on a tail gun, and I was your friend, you'd give me your billfold and say, get this home for me. Because you knew you wasn't coming back alive, if you come back at all. So they was bombing things around there, and they was blowing their buildings up.
So the Japanese were bombing your airfield?
No, they was the Zeros was killing the tail gunners on their bombers when they was out on mission. See, they used to coming in on the tail. They had the top turret, bottom turret, and 2 side turrets and the nose gun, but they didn't have a tail gun on them old ones. So them Japs was coming in on the tail, see. Well, when they come out with this E, with a tail gun, well, that was the first guy that they went for, you see, because they didn't know there's a gun there. The Japs didn't know there's a gun back there. And so every tail gunner was getting killed, for sure.
And this is why you're the ground crew?
Yeah, we was the ground crew. And to service the planes, to load them with bombs and gas and patch them. The ones that come back was full of holes and patch them up and all that kind of bit. But this prisoner, it got to where they didn't have any place to keep him. So whoever was in charge of him went to Thorpe, I guess, and so what are we going to do with him? They've got no place to hold him. He says, take him over and put him on a tail gun. He was the first one came back alive from a tail gun run.
You don't remember his name, do you?
No, I never did know the guy's name. But he came back alive, and so he stayed with them, and he flew out there when they left. So I'm sure they never did convict him or anything. They probably just accepted him as
Well, now when you arrived at Java, what port did you arrive? Did you come?
Surabaya, I believe it was. Yeah, Surabaya was the name of the town where we came in.
What was that? Was Java an interesting looking island, or
Oh yeah, yeah, it's a pretty prosperous island.
did you get to meet many of the natives while you were there?
Not real personally, no.
But it's mainly Dutch, wasn't it?
No, there's more natives than there was Dutch there. I never did see too many Dutch around there, but there's lots of natives.
Was it mountainous, a mountainous island, or?
There were some mountains there, yeah. We went over quite a bit of it, but I never did see any big mountains, but there was some mountains we could see.
So you didn't get to practice any gunnery or anything?
No, at that time, I was on the truck. I was pulling the kitchen truck crew at that time. And at times I had pulled a gun, I had run the trucks for communications. In fact, I was in communications for a while too. Running telephone lines and setting up switchboards and this, that, and other, and also learning semaphore,
Morse code also?
Morse code, and all that. And I wound up on the kitchen truck. They didn't know, most of the guys were trying to be truck drivers or taxi drivers. And there's a lot of difference to drive the taxi cab, drive the truck.
Well, did they give you an assignment to protect that airfield as well?
Me personally, well, all I had at that time was a pistol and a rifle.
But as far as your guns that you took off board, you did take your guns off. Didn't you have cannons and things with you?
Oh yeah, the other guys was on the gun crews at that time. And they were shooting, and they tried to use them to fire planes with, and did. The bombers, when they first came in, they was coming in real low. Well, those 75 Houchers, they were split trail, and you could pull them up to about a 45 degree. And so they got to where they was firing at them with those until they found out that them guns were firing at them, so they went up. We couldn't reach them with the field guns.
And these are Japanese planes?
Yeah.
Was it easy to distinguish a Japanese plane from an American plane?
Oh yeah. It don't take you long to know what kind of plane it is just by hearing it.
Did they have a warning system at all for the field?
Yeah, they had a siren. But I'll tell you what, the natives had a better drum sound than our siren. They'd be ahead of it. I know there, one time old Nolan Anthony, he was on the outpost guard there, and he'd got onto these here drum beats, and he was on the telephone out there, and he heard these drum beating one time, and he called in to headquarters. Says, Captain Bright said, y'all better get out of the cabin. He says, why? He says, we're fixing to have an air raid. He says, how do you know? He said, these natives are beating these drums. Oh, don't worry about that. They're having the funeral. That's the way they do the funeral. Stayed in camp. The siren didn't go off in time for them to get out. The bombs were getting fall before they got out of the camp. So the next day, he heard this beat. He says, Captain, he says, these natives are having another funeral. You better get out of the camp. So they got up and pulled out. But I could be driving. I was going from Malong. This is out at Malong, little town of Malong out there's where the air place was.
Belong?
Malong, M-A-L-A-N-G, Malang, I believe is the way it was spelled. And I was going from there back to Surabaya every day getting oxygen and fire extinguishers filled for them flyers. And you'd take me in there all day to go over and get loaded up and get back. And of course, every time I'd get over, I'd have a darn raid over there, and I'd have to go through a raid there, and sometimes a raid, I'd get 2 of them a day. But I knew I'd be driving down the road, I'd hear a drum beat, closer, 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 and then it'd go by me. That's how fast they could carry that message from one beat to another.
If they go by you, you know the planes are awfully close.
I knew there was fixing to be a raid come in.
Did you get strafed every now and then when you're driving your truck?
No, well, yeah, there's 2 or 3 times I got caught before I could get out of the truck and get away. But most time, well, I'd hear it in time to try and get my truck heated and get away from it.
Were they bombing your fields at night as well?
No, they bombed us at 10 o'clock in the morning and 3 o'clock in the evening. You could darn near set your watch by it.
Did you have did you have a trench or something like that you could jump into?
Well, not really, not where I was. I was on that truck too much to be in one place or another. I know one day, it was in the morning, they bombed out there, they'd messed their water line up or something. Couldn't get water to the kitchen. So I was going to have to go into my lawn there and get some water and bring it back out. So I went out to my truck. The time I got out there, was having an air raid. So I run down there a little ways and got in a little hole for a ditch. And they bombed and strafed around there. As soon as they come back, they'd go over, do it, and then turn around and come back. When they made the second run was gone, I figured, well, that's it. So I jumped up and I hid from my truck. Well, I got down the ox cart trailer just a little ways, and I looked, I don't know why I did, I looked up, and here comes one of them Zeros over a hill. He's going to come back and make one more run for some reason, I don't know why. And something told me, I said, he's heading for this ox trailer as sure as he be. So I turned around, started running back down there in the ditch. Shoot, I didn't much more get started good till I heard them guns opened up. I grabbed the sap, just swung around and fell down, and they fired a little explosive shell. And one of them hit there and blew dirt in my face. And just about the time I hit, and I said, Hoover, I said, don't ever try to outrun an airplane. Don't care how much head start you got. But anyway, he goes on down, and I guess Eddie Fong had this 50s mounted on a Jeep sitting out there in the cornfield. And I think he was fired at him when he went back. And I guess he spotted, he goes down, turns around. He comes right back for old Eddie. And I said, I said, that'd be the end of that little old Chinaman. And they went nose to nose, boy. And when he passed Eddie, I looked, I figured he did, and I saw Eddie swing around and fire at him going out. And then about that time, a big old boil of smoke come out the side of his engine. I said, old Eddie got him, he'll never make it back to the field now. But when he moved out there in that cornfield, he was pretty well hid. But by the time he left there, there wasn't enough corn there to hide a jackrabbit. I mean, bombs and strafers, they just blow that cornfield all to pieces out there. And
you must have thought you were going to be invaded pretty soon then. Were you beginning to, was there a lot of talk of that at any time?
Well, we didn't talk about it, but we knew it was coming. And then we...
Did they get, how many bombers could you even keep in the air with all this strafing and bombing every day?
Well, we'd get in 1 or 2 a day, or maybe 3, 1 today, or maybe none today. And I know one time we got up to 9, lost 6 in one day. So it figured, I think when they left there, they had 3 or 4, we was getting them in all the time. But losing them just as fast as we got them.
And they were coming in from, where were these planes coming from? The B-17s. Were they coming from Australia?
The B-17, no, we had the field like we was at the field.
But if they, well, the ones that got shot down, did they replace them?
Yeah.
Where were they coming from?
From the States. I don't know how they flew them over there, but there's people. And they're just there, I recognize them. Did you know there's a bunch of women flew them planes over there?
Mm-hmm.
And they've never got any recognition for it? Now, I don't know of a woman that flew one in to where we are because they couldn't get out. When they brought a plane down, she was done. There was no way out. The other places you could fly planes in and get out, but you couldn't get out from Java.
Did you get to meet any of the crew members or the pilots from the B-17s?
Well, yes and no. You just meet them and work with them, maybe a few minutes doing this, that, and then you're gone. So I never did really have any close.
But did they put those B-17s in revetments or things so to keep them getting strafed at 10 and 2? Would they make any? Would you guys make any adjustments knowing about when those planes were, the Japanese were going to bomb you?
Yeah, they tried to be off the field on a mission. Our planes was going out twice a day. And
And you've got to refuel them too.
oh yeah, that's what we did was refuel them, and we had crews that patch on them all night. They'd come in there. Some of the planes come in there looked like a pepper shaker. It had so many holes in them. Maybe one or two engines out on them. And but those old B-17s, after you unload them, they could come in there on two engines easier enough.
Did that happen very often?
Yeah, oh yeah, a lot of times.
Did any of them crash on the fields?
Yeah, there was one or two or three of them there crashed on the field. Well, and then another thing, that was a dirt field and a short field. It was actually for pursuit planes, is all it was made for. It wasn't made for them big bombers. And them guys would get out on the end of the field as far as they could. They'd set their brakes, and they'd wind them engines up. Fast they'd go, and then turn it loose, and hope it cleared the trees. I know it was. They said that there were strafers strafing at them from the ground, coming in and out up there. And I didn't. I'd already made my run, or didn't have to go on it that day or something. And I said, well, I'll take care of that. So I got my rifle, and I goes out yonder in the jungle off the end of the runway. I get right straight in front of the runway, nut head. And here comes one of them B-17s off, fully loaded, trying to go for a run. And he didn't quite make it. He trimmed the trees over my head. And if you ever want to shuck up, that four-engine plane trimmed trees over your head. Man, that like to scared me to death. That's, I don't, and I says, Hoover, you idiot, you can stand over to the side and see, you know. So you get a lesson pretty good once in a while, pretty quick. The two things I learned quick: don't try to outrun an airplane, and don't be under one, especially in trees when he's trying to take off. And but anyway, what I was going to say is when it rained, got the field wet. Landing, they go to skidding. If they're going down, it's kind of on a little hill. If they go down this way, the plane wouldn't stop, and they'd have to turn to right and break loose and hold left, and they'd go across there and hang up on a railroad track over here. Man, old Jack Moss would have to go winch them off. If they're going the other way, they'd skid up the hill and then skid out in the cornfield. Well, when they skid out in the cornfield, they'd bog down, so me and Jack Moss have to go winch them out.
You have a big truck to winch them out of there?
Yeah, had a.
But you can't. One truck can't pull an entire B-17 out of there, can
No,
it?
there's two of us winching on them. Sometimes we'd have two or three trucks tied on us to hold us.
Would they start the engines up to help back it down, or they couldn't?
Came back. They'd go forward. There's another thing I don't like when you're sitting in front of a propeller and your chucks, instead of the plane coming this way, you're sliding under him, and that blade just keeps getting faster and faster right outside your windshield. It's pretty scary. You say, well, is he going to shut that thing? Is he going to shut that thing down before he gets over this truck?
Well, were there many accidents, as far as...
No, like that. Just as soon as you see what they do, they sink. And then when you move a little bit, they get on top. But as soon as that, he'd shut that throttle down. But,
Huh. Was your food any good there?
yeah, we had pretty good food. But there's one I pulled out of a coconut tree one time by myself. He was on good ground. It was a cleachy. One way they'd put out in the jungle. Well, they could try to get a plane or two out in the jungle or to keep them hidden if they're going to be there. Les got out that day, and he just the tip of his wing caught a coconut tree. So I gets behind him, and I ties onto it. I winch him back. Or enough, I think, swing around and miss the tree. And I unhooked from him, and I'm just sitting there to see if he missed it. And you know, by George, he grabbed them inches up, and that thing was picking up that cleachy. And it was like a hailstorm hit my windshield. I went to the floorboard. But he hit the tree again and stopped. And I winched him back, and I said, Hoover, this thing's got reverse on it, you know. So when I unhooked from him that time, I hit that reverse move that day. I didn't know them things would pick up rocks like that off the ground. I had seen them over on the field. When it was wet, they'd get in there and lock their wheel like a tell you, and crank all these bolts up, and all you could see was from the front of the engine up. The rest of them just mud, water, and trash. They'd turn it loose to hear that plane come out of it. But man, they'll pick that dirt and trash up off the ground.
How long was it before the Japanese invaded Java?
Well, let's see, we went over there just after Christmas. And all of January, February, I think they invaded somewhere around the 1st of March, because we fought with them 8 days. And the Dutch capitulated the island on March the 8th.
So you were there for a number of months.
Well, January and February, just 2 months, maybe a little over 2 months.
Now, had you made any special preparations in case the Japanese invaded, you know, near the airfield or to protect the airfield with roads coming in?
We had our guns set up. That's what I was telling you. They used them to fire at the planes. So, yeah, we had the guns set up, ready to go.
Was that Eddie Fung a character?
Yeah, he's got his story. If you ever read his book, Old Eddie Fung, he raised there in San Francisco, where it's been, but he decided he wants to be a cowboy now. Have you seen him? He never weighed over 90 pounds, so good wit, you know. He comes to Texas. He wants to be a cowboy in Texas. He comes to Texas. Well, he didn't work out too long there. And then he joined the Army. So he's got all of his stories told with San Francisco and his cowboy deal and his military.
So he's every bit the character you read about.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I gave him some of the stuff in his book there, telling him to get him to tell. His wife actually was the one who's writing the book and just pumped it out, and so I give her a story too in there to write in his book.
Well, now, how did you know the Japanese were invading, or did you know?
I didn't know. Myself, all I know is I think it's around the first part of March. Well, we got orders. All of us except E-Battery. Now, E-Battery stayed back there, but the rest of us went up on the other end of the island there to meet with them. And the day that we really contacted them, we didn't know it, but there was some Australians across the creek there. All the bridges the Dutch had set dynamite to. And across the kind of a pretty good sized creek there was some Australians over, and we didn't know it. And the Japs started coming down through there. And of course over there it's rice paddies and rubber plantations and stuff like that. We had to stay on the road. That's the only way we could fight for them. And they started crossing this bridge, and they opened the guns up there on the firing there, and the Australians over there, so we hear from a few of them that made it, hollered, "The Yanks are coming." They went into a fight with them. They only lasted about 30 minutes. The Japs got them. There was a very few of them that jumped in the river and swam across, come over with us. And that's where they told us about it. And then for 8 days, well, that's what we did. We'd move back, wait on, fight for a while. Because, see, they had cavalry, tanks, everything.
Could you hit their tanks?
I don't know whether, yeah, we had a little dandy tank gun. But about all we could do is when they started to cross the bridge, is just fire on what was on the road there. And when they set up to fire back at us, we had no chance or we'd move. We did that for 8 days.
Did you lose many men during that retreat?
No. And when the Dutch sent word to us, we was back in the rubber plantation. At that time, we'd been found out was coming in from both sides on us. And there was a hill back over there, maybe about a mile and a half. And we was going to try to get over and dig in and just fight the last man. That's what we had decided. And about that time, the Dutch had sent a runner in there and told us to surrender, that they had capitulated the island. And Captain Wright was telling us, he said, no, we told them, said, we're not surrendering, said, they're not going to shoot us for nothing, we're going to be fighting at them. And we was going up to the hill up there and dig in and fight to the last man. They sent a guy back out there, said, you'll never make it to the hill. Said the Japs would pay these natives $10 a head for every American head that they bring in. Said there won't be a one of you get up there with your head on your shoulder. So Captain Wright was in our battery, and he said, well, he says, I'm going to go ahead and walk out and surrender to him. He says, actually, that's my command. And he says, I need to follow command. But he says, right now, I'll release you guys from all command. He says, you're not under command, do whatever you want to do. Man, I've never felt so sick in my life. And we kind of thought it over and said, well, he's our captain, and we fought together, so we need to stay together. So we went out with them, and sure enough, they took us suspended. We just figured they might just shoot us down. We never heard about them.
Well, a lot of times frontline troops are different than rear line troops. Did they treat you well when you surrendered?
Yeah. Yeah, they treated us, I say, yeah, they let us get our trucks, and we drove up. I don't remember this town. They had a racetrack there, and they lined us up out there on the racetrack, our trucks, and we stayed there for about 2 days. And then they moved us back into a jungle over there. And we slept in their tents over there for a few days, and then they moved us into bicycle camp there in Jakarta, I believe it was. And that's where we met up with the sailor bunch.
That's when they came straggling in. Is that right? That was from the USS Houston?
There. They were already there, I believe it was. They was there before we were.
So the survivors of the Houston were there?
Yeah. And they were all running around their drawers and like that. See, they didn't have any clothes. We had 2 pair of pants and 2 shirts. So we give them a shirt and a pant. It was just about equal. There's about 500 of them and about 500 of us. And so we give them a pant and a shirt.
Did you ever talk to any of those fellows about what had happened for them, on the ship being sunk?
Oh, they're with us. They meet with us every year.
I mean, when you were there at the bicycle camp with them, did you ask them what had happened?
Oh, yeah. They give us their story, and we give them our stories. They claimed that they knew we was on there and was trying to get to where they could pick us up. You see, it was the Houston and the Marblehead and the Perth. 2 or 3 other ships, I think, was in that convoy. I can't remember which one I never did see any of them. And Houston got sunk, and I think the Perth got sunk. But in the Marblehead, I think he got hit, but I think they got out. And maybe another 2 got out. I never did know for sure.
Did you meet Bob Charles over there at that time? Or do you know who he was?
Bob Charles. I don't know Bob Charles.
He was a survivor on the Houston. He wrote a book.
Oh, is that right?
He lives in Rockwall.
Oh, yeah. I just now waking up to the fact. I never was close to him. I never was real close to him. I know who you talk about there. But I didn't know he wrote a book. I've got about 4 of them. I can't even think of the guy that wrote the first book. He was from Jacksboro out there. He'd been dead quite a while. But
Well, now, pretty much you had, were you trading, still able at, you're a prisoner of war, but you're not really forced marches like the Bataan Death March, that you really have money, you can buy things, is that right? Food and things?
Well, they worked us there at Java on the docks, loading ships with supplies out there. They took sugar and I don't know what all, everything they could use out of there. They stripped it and no, they put us down. We wasn't getting hardly any food at all. I mean, we was losing weight fast. But sometimes when we was working on a ship, if we was loading sugar, we'd empty the water out of our canteens and put some sugar in the canteen. They didn't search it when you come back. And then I stole some bed sheets there one day. I was down the skin of this rail. I had on a pair of shorts and just a t-shirt. And I took 3 bed sheets, folded them about this wide, and I wrapped them around me, just under a t-shirt. Went into camp. I can't be a thief. You could look at me a mile away and I'm just saying, yeah, I've got something. I stole something. Because the Jap come down the line checking us out. He looked at me and I just hollered out loud, I've got something if you can just find it. And he looked at me and he stopped and he rubbed me down. Backed off. I just kept hollering at him, you know. Yeah, I've got something. He comes up and he rubs me down again. And he finally walks on off. And but I was so poor I could wrap anything. And but I got in that and I gave some of it away and I made me a pair of shorts out of it. The worst fitting pair of shorts. I took a pair that I had and oh yeah. Tidwell, I believe it was, and Nolan Anthony had stolen some thread and needles and got a hold of some stamping ink. And so we're going to make us some clothes. Well, I took every pair of shorts I had, took them apart and laid them down on this sheet. And they always had a fire going out there for something to boil water or something. So I go out and get a stick. And marks around it. It's black off the stick off there. Took my mesquite knife and cut it out and I sewed it together. But they didn't fit too good. And I wore them for a while in him.
Well, it's hot there, isn't it?
Yeah. It's hot there nearly all the time. And monsoon seasons over there gets down maybe in the 40s. About as cold as it ever gets.
What was the bicycle camp like?
Well, that's where I was talking about. That's where this was happening. I was telling you at bicycle camp.
Were you sleeping in a separate barracks or separate rooms around the camp, or?
Well, it was wasn't in rooms. You just opened one deal, this one end to the other, and you just had a space so wide. And when we went over to Burma, build that railroad.
How did they get? By the way, when did they ship you out to Burma? When did they decide they were gonna move you out?
I can't remember when this was. This has been, seemed to me like nearly a year, 6, 7, 8 months, something like that.
Now, your treatment in Java was much nicer than that in Burma.
Yeah, it was a little bit better. It wasn't good because they worked us over there and didn't feed us hardly anything.
But were they beating you and things like that when you were in Java?
Not too much at that time. And then there's one of these crews first to go to Japan, and I was scheduled to go on that to Japan, but at that time I was too sick to go, and they took someone else, and so I missed the Japan deal, and then I got called on the Burma deal, and they took us from Java to Singapore.
Now, where did they put you in the ships?
In the hole, where they hauled the cavalry horses.
Was that hot down there?
About 115, 120.
What do you do for water and things like that?
Well, we had a canteen of water, and that was it. Whenever you could get it filled.
Was it crowded?
Well, it wasn't room to lay down. Everybody couldn't lay down at the same time. But anyway, somebody had to stand up and kind of use a towel or something, kind of stir there. They had a chute that went in there, but it was collapsed, you know. And what they did is they went in there, and that it was about 10 foot high, but they put another floor across halfway up, so made it probably a little less than 5 foot. You couldn't even stand up. For a tall guy, I couldn't even stand up in it. Go down, hunched over. And
So what do you do for fresh air? Do they have air in there?
fan with whatever you could. Fan with.
Did they send any water or food down during this trip?
No, you're supposed to get up on deck and get some soup or some little soup or something up there, but you couldn't stay up very much. And then you had to go to the side of the ship to do your business. A lot of them had dysentery pretty bad at that time too.
But if you have dysentery, you'll never make it to the top of the
A lot
ship.
of times they didn't. That's right, and it wasn't bad. We laid at horse manure anyhow. I picked the bottom deck. I was one of the first ones to go down the hole there, and I looked at this old hardwood floor. I said, man, I was going to try to lay on that. I looked down there and there's hay and horse manure. I said, that'd be a lot softer to lay on. So I went down the bottom, and sweating, that sticks all over you. And this was after we'd left Singapore. And I don't know, let's see, it was 3 or 4 days going from Java to Singapore. They unload us there for a few days and then load us back up. And
Did everybody survive the Java to Singapore route?
yeah, I think so. And it was on different ships, so I can't tell you on all of them because some of us on this ship, some on them, you know. But
So no one was sunk then?
no, there was one of the ships I know. I think one of them was just sunk. One of them got hit, but the one that got hit there, the prisoners was on the aft, and the Japs was on starboard, and they dropped the bomb, hit the starboard end of the ship, and I think that ship made it in, but got nearly all the Japs. But the one I was on, they missed, and at one of the reunions, I met the guy that was out there bombing us. And he said he remembered missing.
That was Tom Sledge.
I believe it was. Was out there bombing us and he missed us. His ship hit on each side of the ship, didn't hit the ship. And at that time, they didn't have that smart bomb. That's the reason they bombed crossways with railroads and the ships and stuff, is they usually drop 3. And we hope one of them hit the target in here. And
When you were at Singapore, when they offloaded you to Singapore, you were there with the British prisoners then?
yeah, they was British there, and those sheiks, I don't know where they was from, but they turned on us, and the Japs used them as guards, and they was our guards when we was there, them dadgum sheiks. And I don't know what country they was from, but they were big guys.
Now at the bicycle camp, did the food get a little better, or were you under British control there?
The British tried to control us all the time, but they didn't have any luck. We fought with them more than we fought with the Japs, actually, I think. No, they were always the big shots. They thought they was the big deals, but they got told off too many times. They finally left us alone. We let them know that they didn't rule us.
The Aussies were more likable than the English.
Oh yeah, they didn't like the English either. If they had someone to go with them, they'd free themselves from England today.
Was it attitude more than anything? Or?
Yeah. Yeah, the English is a bunch of proud and a bunch of big mouths, but them Aussies will fight you. We like people to fight. I had to fight with one Englishman over one time. After we got over to Burma there, we had a day off there, and We was down at the creek. There's a creek there that we go down there and swim in. We'd been down there swimming and was laying in the shade there, and one of them was there at the bridge, and he was hollering and making remarks at the natives come up and down the road there. And James Morrison, I hard day, leave them natives alone. Said, you know, they don't have anything to do with this. He said, you blokes don't tell me something. It's all us blokes, you know. And we kept telling him, shut up. He said, well, I want to come and get you, Drac. I said, there's a bridge. All you got to do is walk across it. And here he comes. I said, now I want to tell you, Baldy. I'd heard about him. He's a big mouth. I said, now, Baldy, if you come over here, I said, we're going to fight. I'm not going to stand here and argue with you. Well, he comes up to me and he's got a cigarette in his mouth. Blowing it off. I said, Baldy, I said, get back on the other side of the bridge. I said, I told you to get over here, we're going to fight. And he just kept on. I just slapped the cigarette out of his mouth. And he said, oh, you slapped a man with a cigarette in his mouth. I said, yeah, I told you. Once you come over here, I said, then you going to fight or get out of here. And he hit me. And me and I went to it. And I got him down. I bruised his face up something. I got him down, got his head between my legs. And I raised my arm up like that. And I thought, well, I don't know whether to pound him or not. About that time, my arm just froze. And I looked up. There's another big Englishman had grabbed my arm. But old John Owens, he weighed about 200 something. He walked up by that guy. He says, you gonna turn him loose, he'll be knock you loose. And the guy turned me loose. I could hear this here mumbling something. I thought he was ready to quit or something. So I unlocked the legs, let him up. And so some of them said, we're going to have another go at it. I said, we have another go at it. I said, I'm going to hurt him. So they said, well, I'd better leave him alone. So he goes over and gets in the creek, bathing his face. Got his back out here and he's looking at me. So I pulled my shorts off, walks out in there. And he looked at me and I said, what happened to you? I knew he didn't recognize me. He said, oh, there's a bloke out in the fire. Says, I'm going to get him. I said, I don't blame you. I said, man, bust my face up. I'd get a hold of him too. We stood there and talked. I got out and put my clothes on. He looked around. He said, oh, he says, you're the bloke. I said, yeah, Baldy. I said, come on out. I said, if you're not happy with the way things are, I said, I want to make you happy. Oh, no, Yank. He said, I'm happy. I'm happy. so that ended that one.
Well, now your trip over from Singapore to Burma, that was worse, wasn't it? In the ship on the ship's hold.
It's about the same as the other one, but anyway, we're still not down in the manure. After about 2 or 3 days, well, one jump side didn't give us a bath. So he gets up there on the main deck with a fire hydrant, and he's shooting water up like this. And I saw what was going on. I said, man, I'll go up there and get some of this off of me. I got up there and I got my shorts and shirt off. I got in there and I got wet. And to this day, every time somebody had me soap, I don't remember where I got soap from because we didn't have no soap. But anyway, he gave me soap and I lathered down. He shut the water off. So I'm in worse shape now than what I know what out there. I was still having dry manure on me. I got wet manure all over the soap mixed with it. So we went the rest of the way on into Moe, Maine. They put us in a leper camp down there in Moe, Maine. There wasn't no lepers in there at that time. And we didn't know what kind of camp it was, but we knew it was something peculiar because of the way it was built, and the beds were made out of wood with steel springs, and the pillow was a big chunk of wood just kind of hewed out for your head to lay in. And concrete floors, concrete walls. It had a big concrete wall all the way around the compound. And we got to asking the natives about it and find out it was a leper camp. So that kind of scared us there for a while. Then they had this guillotine out yonder in the, or guillotine, I believe is the way somebody told me to pronounce it instead of guillotine, it's guillotine. So we went out and looked that thing over. The ladies let us know that's where they chopped their heads off out there. It's a kind of a metal trough that's high on that end of the slope down. And then there's this guillotine here. It goes up about 6, 7 foot, about 7 foot high. And it's got a blade on it, I guess that wide, and it's shaped like this when it comes down. Instead of this, slicing like heavy. But the thing weighed 10 pounds, that darn big blade. And then right under there, where that chop is, there's a hole about that big around the tooth that goes into the ground. And then a place over here for the head to roll into. And I guess after they get a certain stage there where they chop their heads off. I don't know, that's what we finally understood.
Did the Japanese use that?
No, we was there for a while. And that's when they took us and put us on the railroad there. We started that railroad from Moulmein, Burma.
What camp was that at? What kilometer camp was that?
That was in Moulmein. That was at the city of Moulmein.
Did you have any idea what they were going to do with you up to this point?
No. But today they're going to put us out. Well, they lined us up out there in this, Japs give us a big speech. They told us they're going to build a railroad, so they're going to build it if it takes every man's life. If it takes every life for some way in that manner, the death is the only thing that gets you off of it. And so they took us out, and that's when we started building a railroad.
Had the brutality of the Japanese guards begun to come out, or the Korean guards at this time?
Korean, mainly our guards, most of them was Korean. You see, Japan took Korea over in 30-something, I forget now what years it was then. And they used them for fighting and for guards, but they wouldn't give them any ranks. They didn't get no ranks. They just used them as coolies, so to speak, low-end jobs and everything. So they didn't like the Japs. And the Japs, they beat people around for discipline. In other words, if you're a sergeant and I'm a corporal, you beat me. If I'm a corporal, I knock privates around. Well, these Koreans all got knocked around with the Japs all the time, so they wanted somebody to knock around, see. And so they jump on us. Sometimes we give them raisins, like I was working on one bridge over there, there's 8 of us in the crew. And she'd get it upstairs. And we had one Korean guard that wanted to be nice. And he was a school teacher back in Korea. And he was our guard on the bridge. The other guards marched in now. And he wanted us to teach him how to say good morning when we come down there every morning to go to work. We said, yeah. So we told him to say, I'm a dirty son of a bitch, how are you? And we'd been working with him there for a week or more. He got the week saved pretty good. When it's time for the officer to come down to inspect the jobs, see how we're coming along and everything, he's marching along there with us. We march up on his guard, he gets up. I'm a dirty son of a bitch, how are you? His officer speak English. He looked over at him. Yak to him, he yak back to him, and then he'd look at us. We said, uh-oh. And we still didn't know that officer knew what he was saying. We found out later that the officer could speak good English.
So he knew American profanity too.
Yeah, and so that Korean guard, Mikowski's come to teach him. There was 8 of us. So we all come to teach, and he went out there and got him a bamboo pole about big around his son, about 3 foot long. He'd come down the front of us, just walking. He'd hit me, he'd hit you, and they got and he'd come down the back, hit you on the back. He walked around us and beat us till he got so tired he couldn't hit no more. And we was laughing practically all the time, not out loud, mind you, but because he couldn't hurt us. Put a red stripe on us. We didn't have no flesh room to bruise or anything. But we had that one coming. That was the only time. He saved us after that. We'd burn a big brush pile out there. And so there's kind of a log here and there, still burning, but not good. So his dad Jack wanted us to go out there and put a wire around them and drag them together so they'd burn good. We're barefooted. He's got boots and leggings. Well, we was refusing, but boy, he was getting riled up. This guard stood up, told him, said, no, they can't go out there. We couldn't hear him just try to say, but we knew he's holding that for us. And he told the guard, he said, you go out there. Well, he was going to show him. He walks out there and we're almost round one. He had to come out there. And he's got shoes and boots on. He wanted us to go out there barefooted. So he did hold up for us even after all that.
So the Japanese guard didn't get mad?
No, well.
Taking orders, especially from a Korean.
Well, I guess he figured he got even with us for beating the snacks out of us.
Well, was it pretty hot on the Burma Road, building that railroad?
Yeah, nearly all the time during the dry season. Now during the monsoon season, it gets down maybe 40 degrees. I don't know whether it gets that cold or not.
Well, that's cold then by yours because you're weak and...
Yeah, naked. I know I had chills up there. I had that one blanket, and I'd been down for a while on them bamboo poles. I was getting bed sores. And I found me some rope somewhere and I tied it up to the rafters and then laid it up on this wet blanket. As dry as you could get them, you and I'd get together and wring the blanket out, you know. And then it'd finally just get wetter and wetter. And I'm laying up on this old wet blanket, shaking with chills, burning up with fever at the same time.
So you got malaria then?
Yeah. And Houston, bless his heart, he was always complaining. And
who was it? This was Houston?
Houston.
Houston.
J-U-S-T-I-N, Houston, I believe is his last name. We called him Houston. Or Red, called him Red. He was red-headed and red-faced. He was from New York, somewhere up in there, I think. He was off the Houston. And them laying there aching. He's complained about his back hurting or something. Said he'd never make it. And I said, I wish you'd hurry up and die. Maybe I could get some rest. He said, well, don't worry. I said, I'm going to. I said, we're going out there and die. I said, I am tired of listening to you. I said, you're not going to die anyway. I said, you'll make it. Don't worry about it. So we got the argument over whether he's going to live or die. So he said, I'll bet you a pint of whiskey. I said, okay. But I said, if you die, who's going to get to it? He says, Matt Felt. That was a friend of his. I said, okay. So we finally got over that and moved to another camp. And we had to go a little ways down there to a little stream and try to take a bath. You keep the dadgum piranhas from eating you up while you're dry bathing. You couldn't get in the water more than 6 inches deep. Little frogs trying to eat your dang feet off. But anyway, he had been down there and got a bath. He was coming back, and I was going down. And at that time, I had this berry. And
what does berry do to you?
Well, there's two kinds. You have a wet berry or a dry berry. And I got the wet berry. Well, the wet berry, everything that you eat or drink just turns to water in you. And I know the doctor told me first, he said, Hoover, don't take another drink of water. He says it'll kill you. And I didn't. But just Pitts and Rogers, Anthony, some others had about the same time they're the wet. And Roger got 1 drink of water, Pitts got 2 drinks of water. But anyway, he told me that I drank water, and then he says, I can't eat their soup and rice. He says, that's 90% water. I said, well, Doc, if I can't eat about it, can't take a drink of water, how am I going to live? And he took me and Northern Anthony out in the jungle there and showed us, I call them weeds, I don't know what it was. You ever hear poke salad? Poke salad here in the States, it's a wild plant that you can eat.
Mm-hmm.
So he took us out and showed us these wild plants that we could eat. But we had to boil them and then fry them dry, where there'd be no moisture in them. So that's what we lived on there for a while.
Was that Dr. Hecking?
Hecking, yeah. Dr. Hecking. Our doctor had already died, Dr. Lumpkin. Dr. Lumpkin was our doctor's name, but he had already died.
Did you know him?
I didn't know him too well, but I'd been to him a few times to see him, but I didn't know him too well, but I knew him. And he died, and then the Japs got Dr. Hecking from somewhere and assigned to us for our doctor. And see, we'd all died there if it hadn't been for Hecking.
Did you know him well?
I got to know him well. We were good friends.
He's Dutch.
Yeah.
What type of man was he?
Never a better. You'll never find a better man in your life. I don't care how long you live than Doc Hecking was. He was a great man. He cared for us. Done everything he could for us. He didn't have anything to do with, but what little damn he did, he did. But anyway, he showed us we could eat this, and Nolan left there first before I did, and his foot did bust, or his foot busted from here to here. And see, my feet was being flat, they were round underneath there. But anyway, I was going down to take my bath, and I met old Houston coming up the trail. We had both pooped. We couldn't, either one of us walk over a block that I couldn't hardly breathe anyway. My heart was so crowded from swelling. See, that stopped your heart. It swelled up and just stopped you. So we sat down there and we vested. I got up, went on down to get a bath, and he comes on up to camp. I come up directly and just walking into camp. But, you old man felt a pint of whiskey. I said, what are you talking about? Houston just died. I said, don't give me that bug. I said, I just talked to him right so I'll go right down on the trail. Yeah, he's dead. I said, no, he's not dead. I thought they were just kidding me. But you know, he'd come up there and lay down on his bunk. So the guys talking there, and they said something to him, he didn't answer. Around there, and he did.
Do you think at that point that sometimes it was the will to live, that's the only way you could make?
Well, I know that to be a fact too, because a good friend of mine, Eklund, we call him Sweet. He's a big fine guy and a good man. And the same time I had this Barry Bernal, he was right across the aisle there. And they in the bunk over, and he had Delaire's fever. He got so high, and he was going out of his head, and he'd get bed sores. And I walked over to him. I said, Anthony, I said, Sweet, is anything I can do for you? I couldn't have done. I couldn't even get him a drink of water. I wasn't even allowed water. I don't know, but you just want to help somebody. You know what I mean? And he says, no, Hoover. He says, I fought a hard fight. He says, I can't fight it no more. We buried him the next day.
With a lot of the folks, did you have a burial grounds or?
Just buried him along the jungle wherever we was.
In shallow graves?
Yeah. Oh, I was on grave digging time or two there, and we'd dig about 4 feet, 3 or 4 feet down.
But you didn't have shovels though, did you?
Oh yeah, dang right, working on that railroad, there's all kinds of picks and shovels around. They'd let us have them for that. We couldn't take them into camp, but they'd let us have them to dig graves with.
Well, wood rots in that part of the country pretty well, except for teak probably, but Did you have a marker for their graves or names or?
Put the dog tag on a stick, just put it with a cross. They didn't have a box, but they buried them in a GI blanket. Just wrap a GI blanket around them and lay them in the hole. We didn't have no lumber to build boxes, nothing.
Did you ever get any of the sores on your feet and legs, the jungle sores?
No, man, I was lucky on them. Right in here on this foot, ulcers. One of them started right there. And I noticed it was kind of sore there, and my leg got all the way to my knee. And with just a little old scab showing there. And I told Mike one day, I said, you know, a little sore down there sure does hurt. I said, I can feel that thing all the way to my knee. And he got down there and got some tweezers, and he pulled that scab off and got to digging. And that gum, there was a hole in my foot. You could just about maybe stick it up in there about that far. You done eat that out in there. And he dug that thing out. And he just happened to have, I believe it was some penicillin. And he packed that with penicillin and taped it up. And by George, he got well. But I've seen them old boys, you know what I was talking about, when you go to this down there at the bay, you could see the bones from here to here in their legs. And they'd go down there and stick a leg down in there. It had old black, proud flesh. And they'd stick a leg and let them little fish eat it out. That helped slow it down. I know old Glenn Seff had a bad one there. We'd hold him down and scrape that stuff out, and he'd scream and holler. But that thing hurts without even touching them. Say nothing about scraping them out. Some of them put maggots in there. They didn't hurt so bad. Let them maggots eat it out. And them little fish, they'd rather eat bad flesh than good flesh. Seemed like, I don't know why, maybe they could get it easier. I know they nibble on my feet and they couldn't break the skin on my feet, it's too tough. Just little tiny ones, you'd have to stay in water. You couldn't get water more that deep. You get out there and they're big as each other.
Well, the jungle ulcers, a lot of men died because of jungle ulcers.
Yeah. Well, what had happened is them doctors, they tried to saw their legs off. You take me out there and hold me down, saw my leg off, I'd probably die now. So about all that hurt that you're already in, it just holds you down and cuts your leg off. And
is that one of the worst things that you have to go through?
I believe that was one of the worst things.
Not only not having it done to you, but just listening.
Just holding somebody down and working on me.
Would they try to put liquor in them, or was there any anesthetic?
Didn't have no liquor, didn't have no anesthetic, didn't have nothing. But usually when you saw them off, they'd pass out.
That's really the best thing to do, is pass out.
The pain would get so bad, so hard, they just pass out.
Did Dr. Hecking, did he do as many of the amputations?
No, and he didn't believe it. I know Glenn Seff, his got so bad he couldn't, and they go to the hospital. And he told him, he says, Seff, he said, don't you go down there and let them cut your leg off. He said, you tell them to go in there and chisel that bone out, that bad bone. Just chisel it out. He said, don't cut your, and he didn't, and Glenn saved his leg.
Was Glenn from the Texas area?
He was from Lubbock. He's dead now, too. He died, I guess, 4 or 5 years ago.
One of the, from the Burma Trail, the books that few books I've been able to read, is that the worst thing that could happen to you is go to the hospital.
Well, it seemed like it because they wanted to do something, kind of like I was wrecked. They wanted to do something, but what can you do if you've got nothing?
Did you ever go to the hospital?
No. No, I was real lucky. All I did was, I know one time when I sat down, malaria so bad, the doctor was giving me quinine. He got some quinine. And I took that, but I come immune to it. And he says, Hoover, he says, you're wasting the quinine, just taking it. He says, other guys, it might help us. He says, I hate to take it. He says, not doing you any good. I said, I know it. And it wasn't long after that they got some Atabrine. That was put out by Germans, I think, they said. And it's better than our quinine. And he gave us some Atabrine. Seemed like the Lord was with me on everything. I don't know.
Were the Japanese that I've read the bad tales, but would they typically, was it unusual for them to really beat someone to death there on the trail?
No, on the trail. When they didn't beat you on the trail, they either shot you or stabbed you. No, if you fell out. Now at first, when we were making murder, we had enough strength that if you down, me and Buddy, we could carry you. Put a blanket across 2 sticks and carry you. And then it got to where it'd take 4 men to carry one. And then it got to where nobody could carry anybody. So if you fell out, you either got stabbed or shot. Just depends on the guard, whether you want to, because he can't take do nothing with you. So all he can do is shoot you or stab you and go on about his business.
So you knew if you fall out, they were going to kill you?
Yeah. I know when we went into the island, I still had that very, very real bad. Like I said, I didn't have any wind to walk very far. And they drove the train down to Cage Headbury there. I don't know why the track run right by the camp where we was, but anyway, they unloaded us down there. It was at night. We'd been on these damn cattle cars all day. They stacked us in there so thick. If a man died there, he couldn't fall in. We had to hold him up.
Did that happen?
Yeah. Wasn't room to fall down. And we'd been in there nearly all day. And they stopped down there and unloaded us to start the march in the camp. And I think that's kind of like old Houston then. I don't think I'll ever make it. I didn't have no idea how far it was. But I made that march one step at a time. I got into camp and walked maybe 50 or 60 feet. And I stopped. And I had my blanket rolled up and I pitched it on the ground, and I fell down. And I had my head there laying on the blanket, laying on the ground. And just a little ways over was the kitchen. And James Morris went down and got a little cup of rice. And he come by and he saw me. It was light enough you could kind of see. And he saw me laying there and he says, "Hoover," I says, "are you going to go get you some rice?" I said, "Marshall, I can't get up. I didn't have enough strength to get up." And he says, he sat down there. He set his rice down. He said, "You eat with me." And I said, "Marshall, no use, both of us starving to death." I said, "It's just, that won't even keep you alive. No use us eating some of it." He laid his fork down there. He said, "You don't eat, I don't eat." I said, "Okay." So he and I ate that little cup of rice. And the next day I was able to get up and get down to the kitchen, but I probably just laid right there and died if he hadn't made me eat that rice with him. But I could not get up. I didn't have the strength to get on my feet.
Was that probably as close as you ever came to giving up?
Yeah, and I didn't really have in mind to give it up. It wasn't in my mind to give up. I just couldn't get up. Because, no, that was after that. After we moved into that camp there, I finally got a little strength back, and I was put on a work party to put up a tower over on the corner of the camp. And the ground is dry season in. And I had a pick, and I was picking dirt loose from another guy that would shovel it out. Well, I had fever real high, and out there it was hot, and me working, and my fever was going up, and I was about to pass out. And so I just raised that pick up and just kind of drop it, because it seemed like the jar, when I hit hard in the jar, it nearly lose my eyesight. And I just dropped it. Well, the Jap got mad at me. because I wasn't working hard. And there was a hump there about not as high as this, no, not that high, but like that. I don't know how come it there why, but it was. And he was standing on top of it, and I'm right here. So he cussed me out good. Cussed me while I was trying to dig, and I didn't know what he said, but I knew it wasn't nice. So when I got through digging, I backed up here and I just put my hand on my pick and I looked up at him. I gave him a few choice words. He didn't know what I said, but he was like me, he knew it wasn't nice. So he comes down off of the hump there and he had his rifle with his bandhead on it. Stood me at attention, he walked up there and he set his gun down with his right hand up, and he come around and slapped me. Like I tell you, I took boxes and stuff, so I ducked him. When he did, he come around and he hit that bandhead, cut his hand. Not real bad, but his enough is bleeding. Well, that really made him mad. So he walks right up and he's going to hit me with his fist. Well, when he come like that, I did this way and I caught him under his arm and got him off balance. Him holding the gun with that, and was in weeds, them old broom weeds about this high. So he stumbled back and the old broom weeds was catching his feet. So he stumbled from here over the sink a little further and just fell flat on his back. Well, man, that did make him mad. So he gets up, gets that gun, here he comes. He runs at me right there and just stopped just like that. How he stopped, I don't know, and I don't think he did either. And he just stopped dead just like that. And I was looking at him, and I think, I didn't feel anything. I'd always thought, and I'd ask the Lord back here, if I got killed, please don't let me get killed with a bayonet. I don't know why, but I just had a horror about a bayonet. And I looked down, right there. I looked back at him, he still looked at me. Well, I guess he decided not to kill me. And about that time, he done it, went up to the guardhouse. Okay, and I told him on the way up, I said, I don't give a darn. I said, I'm near the dead anyhow. I don't care if you do kill me. He gets up there and he stands me to attention out in front of the guardhouse. He goes in there and they take him in there and bandage his hand up. He comes back out and takes the bayonet and off the gun, sticks it in the scabbard, walked up beside me and swapped in with that gun. Come around and hit me across the back with that butt of that gun. And I almost went down. But I come to enough that I didn't go onto the ground. I stood up, and I didn't much more get stood up. He put the lights out on me that time. I don't know where he hit me, but the next time I woke up, I was laying flat on the ground. Laying there just like this. And the interpreter was over here, and he's over here, and he's just kicking me all up down the side with them hobnails, just taking the skin off of me, and still stomping me. And I couldn't feel a thing. I could see and I could hear, but I couldn't move. I couldn't feel the blood. He paralyzed me. But anyway, the interpreter talked about not killing me. And
who was your interpreter? Was he an American?
The guy was. No, I think he was Dutch. I don't know who he was. I never knew him man before or since. I've never seen him since. But he was the interpreter there at that camp. And he talked him out of not killing me. Old James Morris, Buster Holton, and Jack Moss come down there and picked me up and carried me down there and laid me in my bed space. And the medic fed me there for 2 or 3 days. The life come back into me. I could eat, I could move my head and all, but the rest of it was paralyzed. Couldn't feel a darn dumb thing.
So you eventually got your feeling back in your legs then?
Yeah, it kind of come back. I was there, I don't know, 2 or 3 days, and I got back where I could get up and go again.
Was that Dr. Hecking taking care of you again? Or
No, this is just the medic. just fed me. Just fed me.
Well, Dr. Hecking must have been in another hospital as opposed to.
Was Doc Hagen in that camp? I don't know whether it seemed like he was still there in that camp.
You met his son Fred.
Yeah,
Yeah, he lives in Waxahachie.
yeah. And his daughter. His daughter came over here one year. See, we'd get together and all of us put in some money and pay us way over here to come to our reunions. Oh, we all think about it. I don't think you find one guy that don't like Doc Hagen. Of course, he's dead now.
Is he buried in Holland?
I think so. See, he didn't even know where his family was. At that time, he didn't know where his family was.
The one of the interesting things about the Burma, did you guys, when you first started working, were you working too fast, and then you began to slow it down, or you?
Yeah, we goofed ourselves. Here's a yard of dirt. You got a certain time to move it. Man, we'd kick it there and move it, you know. We shouldn't have done it. And after we got weaker, they still thought we were to do the same thing.
Was there a replenishment of POWs? Yes, a lot of the members that you went over there with, probably from your battalion, died. Did they replace them with other POWs?
Oh, they used, yeah, Lord, I don't remember how many was on there. They used all different nationalities, the Chinese and English and Dutch, anybody.
But they really treated people like the Filipinos and Native much worse, didn't they?
I don't know if they really did. They may have.
Did you try to sabotage any of your work so they wouldn't work?
Yeah, and I got caught in my own damn trap on that one time. And they'd put us on these little old rail cars. They're about 8 by 8 square. They'd put one end of the rail on this, another end on one down there. Tie them together, and then when they get through with it, they'd buckle them up together. And one evening they're going to let us ride them things home there. And we hit one place with sabotage there and just going onto a bridge. The darn engine got by it, which is a big truck deal. It got by, but the little cars were derailing. And I saw what was packed around here, and I'm sitting on the front here in the middle. And everybody was jumping off, but I couldn't get off. These guys got out of the way. And when this was going over, I saw his face go over, so I grabbed the thing here, the whole seat piece, and threw it in front of it. And he come down on the other and took a knuckle out of that finger, right around here like this. And it fell over, and I felt a sting. When I got out there on the ground, I looked there, and my dadgum knuckle hanging down here. So I just did it like this, and just barely a little bit hold it, and I done like that, and I turned and set it back up here. And I held it like that until I found the medic. And this here thing, I've been working all day just full of filth, dirt and everything else. And he didn't have nothing to put on it, so he stayed there longer. He taped it. He taped it up. The time I tape rotted off when my fingers rolled back together. But it was still for years. Look,
You didn't get any infection at all?
No. Not enough about this thing.
One of the biggest problems with wounds and injuries was infections.
Yeah.
And there was really you didn't have any penicillin or other things to help out, except for Doc Hecking's jungle remedies, which were really good.
Yeah.
Did you ever get to go in the jungle and start looking for certain plants and other things like that?
Oh yeah, man, that's it. We lived on that there for, how long was we there after he showed us that? At least a month, maybe 2 months. That's all we ate was weeds out of the jungle.
So you'd go back in the jungles on trips?
Well, we was in the jungle.
So you didn't have to go very far?
We didn't, just outside, all around the camp there. Yeah, we was in the jungle. We built that railroad right through that jungle. Had to cut our way through.
So he taught you what plants to look for and what not to?
Yeah.
Did he was there any of the foods that helped supplement that you could dig up from the jungle, roots or things like that?
Yeah, we ate some bamboo roots. We called them taters. Like potatoes. But they never did get soft like a potato does. We did boil them, but anything you could eat. I know I ate a lot of charcoal when I had dysentery. Get some charcoal roughage in you there.
How's that taste?
It's not the taste much, it's just getting it down.
Did it work?
I don't know. We just hoped it would. Did the thing you could get your hand on. The best way to cure dysentery is old slug ride I was telling you about. Was up there and I forget what camp was in. Anyway, during the monsoon season, raining all the time. And when it was raining on those slit trenches where we used for the trains, we'd have to put a top over to keep filled up with water. We'd put a top about this wide, you know, just up over there, and then little stalls you'd back up in there, put bamboos, put your feet on. And one night he had the dysentery. He was going every so often out there. He was sitting there one night on a stool like this, you know, and our stool just hunched down on over the open hole. Here comes the line walking down. He's trying to find somebody in camp to get it. Well, when he goes by old slug right, he could reach out and rubbed him. He was that close, you know. And of course, old rider just easing along, sneaking up. And it stunk so bad, of course, he couldn't smell him. And so here comes the slug in the camp directly, just scared to death. What's the matter? He said, man, he was telling about that line come by. He said, I think he's as long as a freight train. He says, I thought he never would get by. And he's going towards camp, so he had to wait until they could give him time to get away, because he had to go the same trail up again. And so next morning somebody asked him, said, well, Slug, how many more times you had to go last night? You see a line again? He said, I never did go. We said, well, that's the way to cure the dysentery, just rub a line.
Were there instances of animals actually coming out of the forest and grabbing people?
No, we didn't have any come out. We kept fires burning nearly all the time at night and stayed guard. But we'd hear the lions and the monkeys and all them roaring and everything around out there at night. But they wouldn't come in camp with us when you had fires going.
Did it take you a little while to get used to all the wildfowl and wildlife around there?
Well, I don't know when you say you got used to it or not. I mean, we knew it was there and we always watched for it. One night, I had just left this camp. I think it was a 35 kilo camp. That there was one of those, what do you call them snakes that gets so big and long that swallows you?
Anaconda or python?
Yeah, python, I believe it was. He got into one of the camps one night and he was up there crawling across the bamboo and the banana shangle leaves, and I guess they heard him and woke somebody up. And so they had him for breakfast the next morning. They said he was 14 foot long. So they ate that burger for breakfast.
When the monsoon season hit, when people think of a monsoon or rains, what type of rains, what type of climate are you living in then?
It's just a dang near rain almost day and night. Just an old drill. It quit for a little bit and it rained. It quit for a little bit and rained, day and night. And another time a guard was going to take up for us. We was out there and he was just pouring down rain at lunchtime. Guys from the kitchen, they brought a pot of soup out there for us to eat. Of course, it rained in it all the way out there. And there was an old hut not very far from there where we was walking. And the guard wanted us to take us up there, and the hut, it had a kind of a roof over it. No, they ain't jumping all they can eat here. Well, anyway, we get some basket of stuff and ran that, so I was leaning over this way, holding my basket here, trying to eat, and then the dang water began to run off my body into the basket. And I said, well, I think you better just have fresh water than after bathing in it. Because the basket was fuller when I got through than it was when I started. But anyway, this guard, he kept insisting that we're going up there to get on the shed. And he was standing up on one of these rails I was telling you about before you undo the rails. Well, this here Jap guard, this Jap got mad guard. He gonna get up there and whip him, I guess, or went after him. But this guard just grabbed him by the shoulders, dead-butted him, and knocked him off. He fell flat on his back out there. And then the guard jumped down and took off down the track. And this guy kind of come to him, he reached down, he picked up a rock, and he just threw it. And it just sailed over and just pretty hit the head back of the head, just knocked him down. And so they go down there and get him up on his feet, get him back. And then they let us go up there to eat. But we practiced through eating by then.
You can't keep a fire going though in the monsoons.
Not too much. Not if you don't have one of the buildings got a lot of room to put it in. And it don't do much good. We had to stand up and stay guard. One night I was standing guard in the dark like that. And they had a fire over in the kitchen, burning. And had a clock over there. So we could look at it when it's time to change, get someone else to take your place. And I had walked over, I knew my time was about up. And I walked over to see what time it was, and what I did was the Jap was changing guard. They changed guard, and they was coming down through this strip where I was supposed to be standing guard. And they had gone by as I come to the kitchen, so I just fell right behind them. I didn't say anything, splushing in the water, They couldn't hear me walking. There's about 4 of them. So I just fell right behind them. I was walking by. I knew dang well they was going to scrape us, wasn't if they didn't find a guard out there, but I was going to let them find me. So he gets down there at the end of where my area was, and they stopped. And I just backed off a little bit. It's pretty dark. You couldn't see anything. I was standing right there in the forest meeting. He turned around and hollered for the guard. I said, "Here!" And he's like scared. He hit me with his bayonet, but it was flat ways. It's on his gun, and he just slammed it like that against my neck, right? But it was flat ways. And you wonder why I didn't stop him like I was supposed to. I was supposed to, when he's coming down, is recognize and make them recognize him. I said, well, I was over to Sweden checking Nancy Disco. And I was over to the kitchen looking at the time. The squeegee, not the disco time. And so he accepted that.
Did you have nicknames for the guards? Did you guys have American nicknames
Yeah,
for
there was
some of them?
let's see, the bomber, I don't know, different names around, I can't remember.
Did you have to worry about American fight bombers bombing your
Well, they
area?
bombed that railroad there a long time we'd worked on it. We'd run out in the jungle there and say, blow hell out of it. They'd blow it up, we'd go back and start working on it.
Was that pretty common?
Yeah. We had a few killed. Not many, but a few of them didn't get out of the way.
Were they pretty predictable about the time they would show up and bomb?
No, we never did know when our bombers would come over. But we'd know it was ours when we first hear them.
But they didn't send fighter bombers to come in low, did they? They sent...
No, just, those, we said, one time, I don't know why they did, they decided we was close to a camp there. And they decided they'd strafe us. Captain Wright, when he went over, he weighed over 200 pounds, great big belly on him. And he got down to where he'd put his pants on. He put this flap here, and he just punch a hole in his belt and draw it together. And so they come down the strafe one day. And he gets behind a sapling about this big around for protection, And there's them big, well, they can shoot at you coming forward, out the side, and out the tail. Well, he was going around this. We always accused him of taking the bark off that tree as he went around it.
And he survived the...
Yeah, he survived. They didn't hit him.
And John Moss survived too.
Jack Moss.
Yes.
Jack Moss. Yeah, I think he's still in Amarillo. I haven't seen him in a long time. I don't know whether he's still alive or not, but
Was he part? He's part of your unit.
yeah, he and I used to winch together.
Used to what?
Winch trucks on them airplanes. He and I was the main two. Once they called on to go over and witch them planes out when they get in trouble.
Did you think you were ever going to get out of that jungle?
Oh yeah, yeah. You've got to keep on that. You've got to keep thinking that.
Was there a way to keep morale? Is there anybody around to help keep morale up? Or
Yeah, we did all the time. We'd pull stuff. Just like I tell you about them Japs, we got the hell beat out of us. Another time we got knocked around some stuff we'd say or do.
So the fun was teasing the Japs. That's the way you kept your morale up.
Yeah, that was one way. And no, we never did want to say we wouldn't make it. We always say we were going to make it. And we'd tell the Japs, you know, we'd say, you better be good to us whenever they get over it. If you don't, we're going to be rough on you. Of course, they didn't believe that, or said they didn't.
Well, when did the day come when all of a sudden things changed? I mean, it didn't happen immediately. Was there a behavioral difference or
Yeah,
with the
we
guards?
was down. By this time, they had moved us down to Bangkok filing there at the in the shipyards. We was in the warehouses there at the shipyards in Bangkok.
When did they pull you off of the trail?
Well, we finished that up, I guess, you talk about off the railroad? We had finished that up, time, I don't know about time, because at them days, today's the day, just get through the day and get through the night, and it didn't make any difference whether it's Christmas, Sunday, or Monday, or what, just another day. It's hard to tell. But must have been, we'd already been off that railroad 2, maybe 3 months.
Did they march you out or you go by train?
Well, that's what I was telling you. We went on rail in their cattle cars to well, just cross the bridge. What did I say the name of that town was? Well, go to Kanchanbury. And then they moved us to another camp on down, then into well, the last time.
Bangkok?
Bangkok. Down Bangkok. And it wasn't until we was down to Bangkok that we could really tell that things was over, the way they were acting, and wasn't seeing all the bombers come over and stuff like they had been.
So the Japanese behavior had changed a little bit?
Yeah.
Could you tell by the guards' demeanor that they were nicer, or?
Yeah, they wasn't coming around to see. They had us locked in the camp. They just pretty well staying at the guardhouse.
Would your food get any better?
A little bit better, but not much. They didn't have food. They didn't have it. They was living off of Red Cross supplies. When we were there in Kanchanbury, that first camp there was a supply dump just over the fence from our camp of Red Cross supplies. And we was loading them on the train to go up their front lines. That's where they're getting fed from. And then one evening, there was 3 LB-30s came in there and bombed that all out and dropped incendiary bombs in there and burnt that thing all out.
They didn't drop paratroopers in, did they? Did the Americans drop paratroopers in?
Well, the guys that brought us out from Bangkok, we came out on the C-47, which was the planes that them guys told us they had dropped paratroops out there. And, but we had 3 more days to live. 3 more days and they was gonna kill us.
How'd you know that?
They told us. Because they was gonna pull all their troops back to Japan to try to fortify Japan. And they had no way to take care of prisoners. They were gonna have to kill us.
Have they told you this?
Yeah.
Did they put you in a group and tell you this?
No, they just told, I think they told the officers up there. And the officers told us in 3 days. So our only other hope was these paratroopers were supposed to come and try to fight us out. Now what day they're supposed to get to our camp, we don't know. So they may have got there within the 3 days, or they may not.
When did you know in fact you were going to be saved, or did American troops come marching in, or
No.
planes?
There was a little, I believe he was a colonel, a young guy. He and one or two other guys he brought with him marched up to our camp. They had flown down there with these two C-47s or 46, I can't remember which one. One of them got jump seats in and the other don't have. It's just straight cargo. But anyway, he flew those two planes down there plus a B-25, fully loaded. And he walked from the airport down to camp. I don't know how he knew we was there, but he did. And he come down there and he told me, says, I come down here for these American prisoners. Well, they had trouble with the Japs and the English both. Here's where the English again. There's probably 3 or 4 English to every American. Oh no, we're going out of here. According to he put it up, in other words.
International rules or Geneva Conference or something.
I don't know,
like
but anyway, if for every one American that come out of there, it'd be probably 2 or 3 English. He said, look, there's English up yonder at Rangoon. He says, they can come down here and get you guys. He says, I come down here for the Americans. He says, I'm taking Americans. Well, the Japs also was getting in trouble. And he says, well, I didn't hear this. This is what I heard the hearsay. What the officers is up there. He says, I've got a B-25 sitting out here on the airfield. And he says, if I'm not back out there within 1 hour, I left orders out there from blow this town off the map. That changed the Japs' mind. They got us out there in a hurry. And the Englishmen shut up. So he flew us out. And you know, they still wasn't nobody perfect to go get them guys.
Now, what was that again?
The dang English wasn't fixing to go down there and pick them prisoners up. But I don't know how much longer they stayed down there.
Now, you're there in the camp. You have to march to the airfield, is that right?
Yeah, we marched. And it wasn't very far out there.
What did you decide the pecking order? Who's going to go first, injured, wounded, or things of that nature?
No, he took all the Americans. He had enough place to haul over. The Americans was there.
So they left the English there then?
Yeah, just left the English and Aussies and if there's any other Dutch or whatever.
Well, did they come back and get them on the next run then?
That's what I say. No, he wasn't going to come back after me. He said the English can come down here and pick y'all up. He said, I'll come down here for the Americans. And he flew us up where Rangoon and they landed. And had a kitchen truck over there. And they told us, you guys get out of here and go over and get you a sandwich. Lordy mercy, we hadn't heard of a sandwich in years. And we think, man, that'd be something. So we goes over there and gets a sandwich. I don't know what kind I got. But I couldn't eat it. I ate about half of it. I couldn't eat the more stuffed. And so they flew us from there on into Calcutta, India. And put us in the barracks up there. At least we had a cot to sleep on down. By George, we coming in high cotton. We're up to a cot now. And they started giving us vitamin tablets and stuff. We went through the mess hall, got a meal. You guys can come back and get seconds. We couldn't eat half the first we got. Couldn't hold it.
It causes problems when you haven't been eating well and you start eating rich food.
Yeah, our stomach shrunk.
Did you have any trouble other than just you couldn't eat it? I mean...
No, and they put me on 36 pills a day.
How many?
36. And I'd take 12 at breakfast, 12 at noon, and 12 at night. And that's all I could hold. I didn't go to the kitchen. I didn't go to the kitchen for a week or two. Because them 36 pills was more than I'd had to eat in years.
How much did you weigh at this point?
Probably pretty close to 100.
How much did you normally weigh?
And 176 when I went in. And so a bunch of us, we didn't even go back to the mess hall. We just ate them pills. That's all we could hold. We was full. Well, the doc saw we couldn't hold much. So he gets 3 or 4 nurses They'd go out and find some buckets and tubs and this, that, and the other. They put a case of beer under every cot, give us some, ice it down. He said, "You guys start drinking beer." We laughed. Doc said, "You're going to have a drunk bunch on your hands here." He says, "I said drink all the beer you can drink, then drink some more." He knew we couldn't get drunk. We couldn't hold enough. He knew that, see, we didn't. But he was wanting us to stretch our stomachs so we could get some food in there. So after about, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks, we could eat a little.
When the planes came in, and by the time you're marching, did you ever feel like was there ever any feel of elation, or was it just relief? And did you really kind of feel like, maybe I'm going to get out of this?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, like I said, we always figured.
Or did you feel you were living in a dream, that you were being...
No, we always felt it, or I did. Now, some of them that gave up and died may have felt different, I don't know. But most of us, we're determined.
Was it hard to realize you were finally free?
Well, yes and no. Because we had, that's what we'd look forward to, and that's what we'd planned for. So. But we didn't have any sense. We was crazy.
Did they give you any clothes or things like that?
Oh, yeah, they gave us one pair of pants and shirt. But every time they'd take us to the hospital, they'd want us to turn them in and give us these gowns, you know. And after the first time, or the next time, most of us, we got wired and we'd go into the hospital to change. We'd just throw our clothes on the bed and say somebody else picked them up.
Well, you've been living up to this point of scratched existence, so you don't really want to give anything up when you've got it.
Well, no.
You're not used to waste, in other words.
Well, that wasn't it. We wanted some clothes and them darn gowns so we'd get out of that hospital. And I know Gutierrez, we got in Washington, D.C. up there, he's still giving his britches up. And he decided he wanted some whiskey, so he just gets on the phone, he calls a taxi, and the taxi comes out there at the hospital, picks him up, and takes him to the liquor store, and he goes in, buys some liquor, and comes back in his gown.
Did they ever go back and convict any of those Japanese and
Yeah.
execute them after the
They
war?
claimed they did, probably about half of them got convicted, and they didn't. But they convicted some of them, and some of the guys, they got to go back over and recognize some of them.
Did you ever go back?
No. The only thing that I tried to do one time was right after we got out, and there's several of us, they was wanting occupational troops to go to Japan. And we volunteered for that. They said, "No way you guys are going back over." I said, "We just got over one war. We're not going to get another one started." They wouldn't give us no guns or nothing anymore. And I guess it's a good thing because we remained. We didn't give a hoot. And I know we'd go down to the VA hospital. We wouldn't see a doctor. Every time they'd send us to a psycho. Wasn't nothing wrong with it. We just, you know, we was all right. We didn't need no doctor. We just crying crazy. And I told one of them down there one day, I went down there, I was hurting bad. There's an explosion over. Me and old Keith Conley, was an explosion over one time. It blew us out.
Was this a bomb explosion?
It was a dang plane that exploded. B-17 exploded with 4,800 pounds of bombs on it.
On the ground?
Yeah.
Was this in Java?
Yeah, that strafer, one of them strafers hit it and caused it to blow up. And he was out there in the ditch. And they told us during bombings, don't get up against the bank, you know, when you're getting where the strafers are after you. Well, of course, whenever bullets are going over you, if you can just get a little tighter, it just feels better, you know. And we was up against this dirt bank towards the airport, and the strafer's coming back. And he hit that plane, said on fire, that thing exploded. And I remember hearing a boom. And the next thing I knew, I'm right out here in the middle of that darn ditch. And I came to, and I thought every bone in my body was broke. And I got to moving a little at a time, and my neck sure did hurt. And they told her, what they told her said, it'll break your neck. You know? And my neck did hurt. And I rubbed it on, I got up, and I stood up and I looked out, and boy, what used to be brush and all that out there just cleaned this table. I mean, that concussion, they had cleaned it. And there's a whole bunch of airplane gas and barrels right down there from us. And I stood up and I looked around to see where old Keith was, and he was on his hands and knees over piling up some gravel and small gravel. I said, what the hell are you doing? He turned around and laid it, he was making him a pillar out of dirt. He turned around and laid down on it. He says, Hoover, when you get back to the States, tell him I died comfortable. I said, you get up here and look out here. I said, if he comes by and hear this, hits all these barrels of gas, I said, who's going to tell him how I died? I said, boy, we better get out of here. So, so he got up, we took off down the ditch. But I've always had trouble with my neck ever since. But anyway, I was down there this time, my whole left shoulder was hurt down through here. I couldn't hardly move my arm, move my head like that. I went down there and him in to see a psycho. He's sitting there and I'm here in the door like here. And he just asked me a bunch of stupid questions. Asked me about my family, if there's any sickness in my family. I'd been around him 6 years. I said, I don't know about my family. I said, I hadn't seen him in 6 years. And I said, my shoulder and my neck's hurting. I said, I need some help. Well, he said, he had a pencil like he was writing. He finally got around if there was any insanity in my family. I said, yeah. He said, who? I said, me. He says, what's the symptoms? I says, when some idiot like you said there asks me a bunch of stupid questions, I get the urge to kill and I feel it coming on. He laid that pencil down and out he went. Well, I sat there and he never show up again. So I goes outside and this girl in a cage like over and I said, where's old Doc, whatever he was? She said, well, he went down the hall. And I never could find him. So I had to go back out and start over again. And I told him, I said, I need to see a doctor. And so I go and see a doctor. He wanted me to bend over. Well, I could bend over and straighten up. He didn't say nothing wrong. So I goes back to Vernon. I go down to see a chiropractor. He puts me on the table there, feels around, checks around, directly goes to jerking on my head and popping my neck. And I said, Doc, I said, you're going to break my darn neck. I said, my neck's not hurting as bad as my shoulder. I said, my shoulder's what's hurting. He said, who's the doctor, you or me? I said, you're the doctor, but I know where I'm hurting. He says, I do too, and I know what's causing it. He says, your neck's out of place. He says, it's been out of place a long time. So I nearly know that's what happened over there. But he fixed it. I've gone to the VA for 65 years, and did you know they have never found anything wrong with me in 65 years? I've had cancer 3 times. I almost run into leukemia one time. Had an ulcer in my eye. Retina was bad. That doctors found, but the VA's never found anything wrong with them.
When you your mother had probably been notified you were missing in action. Was she ever notified that you were a prisoner of war?
Not till I called him.
Not till when?
I called home. Till I called her.
What did she know about you up to that point?
I was just missing in action.
Did she ever talk to you about that after the war? How it affected her and?
But I did. I sent 3 cards from Moline over there, but they didn't, because the Japs writes it out. You just sign it, so they didn't know for sure whether that's it or not.
So she knew you were alive.
No, they didn't know whether that was a fake or what.
Did she keep, now you and your brother in World War II, did she keep a blue star, 2 blue stars in the window?
I don't know. She did not. I never did ask about that. Yeah, he was in Europe.
But did you ever get a chance to talk to her, or did she ever ask you about any of your experiences over there?
A little bit, you know. It was kind of funny, but their government had got to them and told them to not ask me any questions and not talk to me about the war. They was afraid to ask me any questions about it. And I never did talk about it till here lately. I mean, we began to talk, but we never did talk about it anyway. Except each other.
Well, now, when you and your brother joined the armed services, did your mom and dad ever talk to you about joining it, whether they wanted you to or not?
No, I was out in Clovis, New Mexico, and they were down here. They didn't even know when I joined.
What about your brother?
He was here, and he got, I don't know when he got called. He was fixing to get drafted, I think. See, he was 2 years younger than me. He was, when I went in, he was too young. I was 19. I had just come 19.
Did they ever have any clippings in the paper about you missing in action?
I don't know. I never did see any. I never did ask about any.
Now, when you got back, how long did it take you to get back to the States?
Well, again, it's hard for me to say. We was in Calcutta maybe 2 or 3 weeks. We went down to Karachi, Pakistan. We was down there a week or two. And then we flew from there to Cairo, Egypt, and then on into Casablanca. We just made stops there at them and eat supper there at Casablanca. And then flew into Newfoundland. And then they flew us down to Walter Reed Hospital. And we was there at Walter Reed Hospital, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks. Seemed like something like that. They just got us where we kind of looked like human beings. Put us on the train. We called the train out of there about 3 o'clock a.m. one morning. And like to run the conductor and them nuts before they got us to San Antonio. But they was glad to get shut of us. And so then when we unloaded there in San Antonio, well, they give us a 90-day pass. And so this must have been, I know I got home just a while before Christmas. And we were liberated in August 15th. Must have been about 2 or 2.5 months getting home. September, October.
Yeah, I'll say August, September,
Well, just
October.
part of August.
About 4 months, 3.5 months or something
Yeah,
like
it didn't
that.
seem like it was that long, but because I think it was. Can't remember just when I got home. I think it was around November.
When did you call your mom?
I called them from Walter Reed Hospital.
Where was she living at that time?
She was living here in Denison, but I didn't know if she had an apartment here then. I didn't know where she was or her phone number. That's the reason I knew my sister would probably still be where she was. And she was, but I didn't know where any of the rest of them was.
So you called your sister.
Yeah.
Was she the one who nearly fainted on the
She's
floor?
the one that fainted. And
Tell me that story. I've got to hear that again.
Well, she answered the phone, and I told her who it was, and I heard the phone bang. And Mama come and picked the phone up and says, Pauline fainted. And that's when I found out about her fainting there. And she said, just a minute to see how she is. And I said, all right. But Mama held up good, you know, and I talked to her there for a little bit then. Told her where it was, and everything was all right. We'd be home. Didn't know when, but it'd be home. But they thought I was dead, I guess, 2 years or more before that.
That's the first they heard from you. Was that phone
But they
call?
knew me. I sent those little cards. The Japs had wrote them out, and I just signed them.
And they made it home.
Yeah, there's 2, I think. 2 cars, and that's all it was. So, of course, they couldn't stand put much trust in that.
Did you get a chance to talk to your dad also?
No, I didn't talk to him after I got back here to Denison.
You were closer to your mother than your father.
Yeah, Dad, he was here then. He was living here.
I mean, not distance-wise, but I mean emotionally.
Well, yeah, I was always closer to my mother than what Dad. Of course, Dad and I got along pretty good when I was just a small boy. But after I got up kind of age, well, he and I kind of got crossways on some things.
So you came back, you said you, from San Antonio, you came back up here, is that right?
Yeah, and at that time, transportation was bad. There wasn't no transportation, all at all. And when we unloaded down there, there's some guys come and met us, and they had, what did they call them? Riders. In other words, if you was going from here to Dallas, you'd get the word out if anybody wanted to go to Dallas. Well, you'd take them down there for $1 or $2, whatever. And we found one of those that contacted him, and I paid them, and they was 4 of us, I guess. There was 2 of them that's going on further north than I was. And, but he brought us, we rode nearly all night coming up here. And I got off here in Denison. But that's what you do most of your traveling anywhere. You couldn't catch a bus or a train or anything. You just have to catch somebody going somewhere and pay them to go with them.
What was it like meeting your mother physically for the first time?
Well, it was great, I'll tell you that for sure. Meeting anybody. And being around anything civilized, I know. Excuse me.
How did you meet?
Well, I went to the same church that his oldest sister belonged to, Pauline, and real hard-headed Baptist. And so anyway, at that time I was engaged to a very handsome young sailor, but he was out on the ocean. And so I told my mother, I said, oh, I don't think I'll go. I'm staying true to Lester. And Mother says, oh my goodness, she says, that's silly. She says, I'll take you over there. And at 10 o'clock, I'll come and pick you up and call me. So I said, okay. So I let my mother talk me into going to Pauline's house. And she had several games of dominoes going. So Jay and I happened to become partners. And so about 10 o'clock, I said, oh my goodness, I almost forgot to call Mother. And so I said, I've got to get home. He said, oh, I'll take you. So he took me home, and I forgot, left my comb, my purse in his car. And I've been forgetting ever since. And so he took me home, and I let me out, and I left my comb and my purse in his car. And so a few days later, he came and brought them to me, asked me for a date. And that's how it all got started.
So was JW a pretty good date? Was he, having a car and was a...
Oh, he had the most beautiful tomato red Oldsmobile he had just bought, brand new. That's what really caught my eye.
So JW just happened to be in the car?
Yeah, he just happened to be in the car.
Well, you must have bought that with the money that you had saved from being a POW for so many years.
Yeah, and I'll tell you. Coon rod. I don't know whether the coon rod is still around here or not. But he had a little, down there about where the bus station used to be there on Main Street, he had a little car lot there. Didn't have many cars because there wasn't many cars then. And I walked by there and wanted to buy a car. Yeah. So I picked this one out. Said, what do you got to trade in? I said, I don't have no car to trade in. I said, I'll just pay you for it. Well, he says, I can't just sell you one outright. He says, I need to trade in. He says, if I just sell my car, he says, I'll be out of business. I said, well, I says, I haven't been around here in about 4 or 5 years. I said, I don't have a car. And he found out I was just back from overseas and all these. Well, on that case, he said, I'll go ahead and sell you one. So I had 3 years pay coming, which is about $3,000.
And that's a good money. That's very good
Oh, that
money.
was big money. Then I think that car I paid $400 or $500 for it. But you know, when I left, now it wasn't due, it was secondhand. It was almost due. But when I left Brownwood, I was down at the car lot when the 1940 models came in. There's a friend of mine, I went down there with him, he wanted to buy a little old Chevrolet. He saw a little used Chevrolet down there he wanted to buy. And I was in the showroom, just sitting in a chair in the showroom there, waiting on him to get his deal made. And the salesman walked up to me and says, "You looking for a car?" I said, "No." I said, "A friend out there." And I had bought a vehicle in the past on time and with GMAC, and I had a GMAC credit card in my pocket. I didn't know what that meant. And they said to me they'd paid the car off that I had. So I said, "How much is it?" Now this is a brand new Ford sitting in the showroom, 40 model.
Ford?
Yeah, it was Ford. And
Who bought that one?
nobody.
Oh.
But anyway,
I'm sorry.
I said, "How much you want for it?" He said, $600. And that's a brand new Ford car for $600. And I said, "No," I said, "I don't have the money to buy one." I said, "I don't know how long I'll be around here to get to use it anyhow." But anyway, I pulled this credit card out and showed it to him. I said, "What does this thing mean?" I said, "You're in the business." I said, "What does that mean?" He said, "That means you just give me a down payment and you can drive this car out here."
It wasn't a Ford you bought it. You bought a red Oldsmobile.
I am talking about when I was in camp in Brownwood.
Oh, I'm sorry. That was for me.
Camp in Brownwood. But see, you could buy a pretty good car back there then. Or you could buy a car anywhere from $35 to $75, $150.
So the car you bought, the only car he had was a red one.
Well, after I got back,
After he returned and we met.
you know,
Excuse me.
yeah, that was after I got back. I was talking about before we were over.
This thing's probably not even working. Hello. Oh, we're just being interviewed here by a lovely gentleman from Dallas. And, well,
Good Lord.
what do you mean, which one? No. There's a gentleman from Dallas that has come up. He's with the Historical Society.
So
Yeah, so let me just call you later,
Pretty much.
okay? Well, bye-bye. It's your sister.
It was close enough.
Who's that?
Your nosy sister,
Oh,
Ruby.
Yeah. Oh, I told her he'd be here, but I said we'll probably be.
Oh, she calls every day.
Yeah.
She's a widow, you know.
Well, now, so how long was it between the time you met and Rita, you proposed to JW here?
About 4 months.
Took 4 months for you to
About 3 or 4.
propose to this man?
Well, what got me, Lester came home, and I was dating Jay at that time. And every time that Lester would come to see me and I made a date with me, Jay would show up. They hated each other.
No, we didn't.
Well, I noticed you'd jump up and run off.
He'd run off and leave you. I asked her, I said, "What is between you?" "Oh, he's just a friend of mine." She was lying to both of us.
Well, let me tell you something that he didn't think I knew. He was dating another girl, too. And I was working at the Kraft cheese plant here in Denison just before they moved to Garland. I had a real good job. And the day we got married, I received a letter from Kraft cheese plant calling me back to work after they had just gotten moved to Garland. And I could just kick myself every time I think, well, he was looking for a job, or could have, he was unemployed at that time. And I thought we both could have gone down there and gone to work with Kraft Cheese Company and probably retired with a good retirement. But hindsight's better than foresight. But anyway, I was working at Kraft Cheese Plant, and so one evening when it was time for me to get off, I got off at 12 o'clock at night. And so I went down to the undress and get my clothes on. And so I heard this girl talking in the next booth next to me. She says, "Oh," says, "I have a date tonight
Well,
with
we just had a date, and I brought her to work.
Well, anyway, so she says, "Oh," says, "I had a date tonight with the best-looking young man, and he drives a most beautiful, brand-new red Oldsmobile." I thought, So I found his true color too.
I didn't believe in running empty. I hauled one out there, didn't haul one back home.
So when and where were you married?
In Paris, we eloped. So we drove to Paris, and the pastor of the First Baptist Church there married us. I believe it was in their home, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Remember what the address was or anything?
Lord, no.
I do. And I'll always remember this. I'm just joking. But they say if you marry in red, you wish you were dead. I married in red.
Yeah, but he said, did you remember the address?
I thought you said the dress you were wearing.
That was good enough. I'll take that.
But no, that was my favorite suit. And so I got it out to wear. Didn't have time to go shopping or plan a wedding.
Why'd you decide to elope?
Well, he was,
I don't believe in these big, long married deals.
he didn't want to wait.
You know, when we found we got engaged, and I didn't have a suit.
He's been in a hurry ever since.
So I wanted to get a suit, so we went to Durant. We worked Durant, Dennison, Sherman, Bonham, Honey Grove. We went all the way to Paris, didn't we?
Yeah, we drove all the way to Paris looking and shopping.
And all of that deal, I bought one white shirt and one suit that the guy let me have because there's supposed to be a vest with it. And it didn't have a vest. I said, I don't want a vest anyway. And that's all the clothes I bought that whole day's trip.
They just didn't have any.
They didn't have, they wouldn't say
civilian
anything.
clothes at that time.
And you couldn't buy clothes. And the government gave me a slip when I got out of the service showing that I was entitled to buy a pair of shoes. That made me so mad. I just tore them away. I said, look, I said, I come to America and I've got to have a slip to buy a pair of shoes. I said, when I was in Calcutta, India, I bought 2 pairs and I could have bought a truckload. And come to America and I've got to have a slip showing that I'm entitled to be able to buy a pair of shoes.
Where'd you have your honeymoon?
What honeymoon?
So you went right back to work.
Oh, yeah.
He was working.
I worked that morning.
House.
I worked that morning. We married that evening. And Monday I was back on the job.
He had to work that morning to have the money to get married on.
So what type of work did you have then?
Well,
was
at that
building.
time I was a carpenter.
So did you have a place to stay and live together?
No, my mother and
We
Dad.
stayed there.
I
No, you
lived.
see, I bought a lot over here on the Herod Street. And I had some money, but not enough to build a house with. And my brother, when he came back, he had a job to go back with the railroad. See? So we had to put the house in his name because I couldn't get a loan. See? And we built that house over there, and we lived over there for a while. And then,
I didn't.
no, and then I let
You
my
and your
brother take the house. He just paid me what I had in it and kept the house. But we didn't have, me or him didn't have no place to go when we come back. And so I had to build one. I got in the building, then I went ahead with this guy that I got to build that house and worked with him a while. And then we went to back to Clovis, New Mexico.
Rita, what is your full name, including your maiden name?
Rita. I started to
Rita
say
Jo.
J, but it's Joe, J-O.
Rita Joe Doris.
I never go with Joe. I usually just say Rita.
And what-
J-
Hoover.
Rita Joe Doris was her.
Dories. D-O-R-R-I-E-S.
and you're from this area originally.
No, not originally. It was kind of funny. I was born here. Now, this was my mother's and dad's hometown. But he raised chickens. He had a little chicken place. He raised and sold chickens and eggs and whatever. One night the chicken barn caught on fire, burned up everything he had. Well, at that time he had a brother living down in Croup, a little country town called Croup, East Texas. And he had a brother that had some land down there, and it was real close to the East Texas oil field. They just discovered that oil, you know. And so he talked Dad into coming down there. And so we moved down there. My mother and Dad had a nephew, and he drove the old wagon down to Croup, Texas, which was a long, long ways. I can remember riding on the tail end of that old wagon, moving to East Texas. But anyway, they lived down there in East Texas and farmed until I was about, 15, I guess. And at that time, things were getting better. They were getting over the terrible depression that they had had up here. And all their loved ones were up here, so they let their mother, my grandmother, talk them into moving back up to Denison. So that's how we got up here. And I graduated from Denison High School, but...
What year?
Yes.
What year?
What year? 1947?
No, we married in 46.
Okay, whatever you say.
You graduated in 45, I think.
No, I didn't graduate that
You
summer.
was graduating when we married, weren't you?
I graduated the spring we got married.
We married in March 46.
March
So
46.
So that'd been 45.
No, we married in March 46.
Yeah. So you had to graduate in 45.
So now, what did your parents think about this eloping business?
Well, my mom was working, and my dad was working. He was with the Katy Railroad.
Mhm.
They didn't say anything.
How about your mom?
We just took off and got married, and when we got back, Jay told them we were married.
She didn't say anything about it either.
How did you end up in Vernon?
Well, he became a salesman. You
I went
remember
to work
the
for Pool Manufacturing Company out of Sherman over here.
Pool Manufacturing Company used to make men's clothing.
Work sports.
This is the same man who didn't even have a suit and didn't want a vest.
That's right. And then
We're
he,
talking about the same man?
Yeah, I didn't want it.
right. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, I didn't want it. I couldn't get it.
But anyway, when he went to work for the pool company, they had a territory in that western part opened. So for about 20 years, he traveled part of Texas, New Mexico, Oklahoma, and Colorado.
That's a lot of traveling.
Used to
Yes,
call her 4 states up there.
and our children only had a weekend daddy for 20 years. He'd come home on the weekend.
One of the things that's, it's sometimes difficult to talk about, but your the transition, did you have trouble transitioning, especially, when you're married to a veteran who's been through the worst things you can go through? Was it a difficult transition, as far as emotionally adjusting back because the dreams, the nightmares, did that occur? Did you have any problems along?
Oh, yes. He fought many wars with me at night. I would wake up with him kicking me or hitting me, and he was back in prison, dreaming. And so it was difficult. We had a difficult time. But we wives would get together at our reunions. He never would miss a reunion. They got together every year in August, near the date that they were freed on. And we wives would get together, and all of them agreed that they were having difficult times.
Literally, that was the best support group you could have had.
Amen. It surely was.
Because it's impossible to understand unless probably you've been there and through that. I mean,
Right.
you really can't. It's not
Right.
your fault. It's not anybody's fault. But it's a difficult thing to go through
Oh, it
because you can't.
is.
It doesn't stop.
Well, between you and me, we wives survived too.
They all thought we was rowdy.
Oh,
By the time we got married, we were
mean.
angels.
And my husband told me one time, he says, I want to tell you something. I've lived with these fellas a lot longer than I've lived with you. And he says, I'm going every year to that reunion, and I'm not going to miss. I said, well, who said you were? Not going to get to go. So anyway, they were very, very close.
But it probably also helped you going to these reunions more than
Yes.
probably JW, and
Yes, it
emotion
did.
from that standpoint.
It really did. And we were very, got together, the wives all learned to know each other, you know. And we were just a real close-knit group, and we still are, really. However, the children have taken over now. The second generation now sponsors the reunion for the Lost
There's
Battalions.
more of them they are.
Yeah.
Of course, out of the 131st Field Artillery, there's only about 38 or 40 of us left.
Well, I've taken up a lot of your time
Well,
today, and I want to
have.
thank both of you for letting me come over.
Well, we'd be honored if you'd let us order something out and we'd just have lunch with us if you have not eaten.
I haven't, and I'm taking you up on that.
Yeah, date was, we'll take it.
Are we
Better.
going out or are we ordering something or what?
Now let's go get something.
Okay.
JW, if it's with your permission, of course I'm going to have you sign this for the Nimitz, but I'd like to give a copy of this to the Frontiers of Flight Museum in Dallas for their, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, I've been out there. I remember. Okay, yeah, we were working on another bridge, different one I was telling you about a while ago. And we had two elephants, one big bull elephant and a little she elephant. And the little she elephant's job was rolling those pilings up close enough to the tower there that we could get a rope on them. And of course she didn't have any tusks. It was hard for her to just do that with her trunk only, and she'd get mad and she'd bellow and fuss about it. But if you got in front of her and turned your back on her, she'd knock you down with that trunk. I don't know why she wasn't mad at you or trying to fight you, but she just didn't want you to get in front of her and turn your back on her. If you did, you'd go to hit the ground because she's going to get you. And the old bull elephant, we used him to pull the pilings up on the tower there to get them set up where we could get the weight on top, which had a 500-pound weight we was driving those with. And with kind of a hole in the top of the piling. So this bar would go down in it and then it went through this 500-pound weight. And then we had a windlass with a big rope tied to it. We'd pull that up as far as we could there, about 3, 4, 5 feet, and then drop it and let it hit them pilings. Well, this old bull elephant, he had a big sore in his forehead up there where this native had been hooking him with that hook that he guided him with. And it got worms in it. So I know it was real tender. And sometimes he'd make a mistake and hit that elephant with that hook in that sore. And when he did, that old elephant would let out a big beller and take off. He'd pull that piling up to the top of the scaffold and then just pull the whole scaffold down. We'd have to go build the scaffold back. And but one day the native was going in home with him, and he had to cross a ox cart bridge down there, which most of the time he went through the draw instead of crossing the bridge with him. But this day, I don't know why he decided to cross the bridge. It could have been another driver, I don't know. But he started to cross that bridge, and that old elephant fell through the bridge, and they had to kill him and cut him up to get him out of the bridge. We sure did miss that old boy.
Were they a lot of fun to work with?
Well, we didn't actually, he was fun because he was doing a lot of work for us. But we didn't fool with him and we didn't get around him. But we sure did miss him when he was gone because we had to pull them pilings up there and them things were heavy. But we missed that old boy, and of course the other elephant never did bring her back in either. So we had to do all that work, get them logs rolled over and pull them up ourselves. We missed them two elephants.